the only clip I care about. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, the Friday, gotta get down edition of Friday. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. That's not supposed to be playing yet. That's a clip for the Audio Blitz, which comes up at 8 o'clock, our best sound from around the weekend. A clip that has got me thinking I'm putting the bank on the Oregon Ducks this weekend.
You're gonna get us another meeting.
That's all right. It's worth it. We had a good time yesterday. We had a meeting yesterday because there's we've been getting some feedback on our live streams, both this one and Wire to Wire with Cole Bryson and Diesel. And our corporate overlords wanted to have a little check-in about an issue that's been ongoing. Nothing bad. We're not in trouble. Just to kind of check in on something. And one of the guys from the video team that we did the check-in with yesterday.
Your buddy.
Yes. And he is. He's a guy. He's my dude.
Hey, here's the thing. Only one person caught he's your buddy, and that would be me, because he slipped something in there, and none of the other people noticed, except for me. Come on. You're like 3 feet away.
Bro, it's under the desk, and I hit it off the wall to bounce it in.
I saw it.
I nailed it.
I saw it, but there's just a little cut that he threw in there about Vegemite. I was like, yeah, that's Rob's guy.
So one of the guys that runs video also runs the video team for the BetQL network. And so Jason, and I know him, good dude. He's helped me out plenty of times. Anytime there's been any sort of issue or I'm trying to, make something work on social media I'm struggling with, he's my guy. And very appreciated. So we get onto this meeting yesterday, and this man not only has a stand-up desk, one of those desks that you can raise it up so you can stand while you work. And it's something I've considered doing it. They make a kind that sits on top of a regular desk so I could stand here and do the show. And I've considered it in the past. I haven't ruled it out. I'm just not there yet. But he uses one. And, we've talked about it before, because every time I've done a meeting, he's at a stand-up desk and he raises it up, blah, blah, blah. And that's fine, whatever. Yesterday, he went to a new level, took it to a new level of, bro, what the bleep are you doing with your life now, right? Not only did my guy have a stand-up desk, but under the stand-up desk, he had a railless treadmill. So he's not only standing at a stand-up desk to show everyone in this meeting how much healthier he is than all of us, but he's walking on a treadmill behind his stand-up desk during the entire meeting. Never stop. Not like, all right, guys, let's start the meeting. Let me go ahead and stop the treadmill so I can stand still and talk to you. No. Just on the treadmill the whole time. And I actively said to him, I just wanted to congratulate you for letting us all know you're better than us.
Yeah, it's a work. I don't know how he did it. I think he's just he's a video guy, so he made it look like it because he never popped a sweat once. And I mean, you're in much better shape than I am. You walk on a treadmill for as long as that meeting was, you're going to sweat. I am going to be a mess and need towels. And I know that the steady pace. When I'm on a treadmill, I walk just a little bit faster than what he is. So
I mean, here's the thing. I think one of the things that it is very important for people to do is give an honest evaluation of themselves. You and I are both going to be sweaty messes on the treadmill because both of us don't take care of ourselves the way we should. It's all right, that's just the reality.
Because I had a long conversation with someone about this whole situation that they brought up, and I'm not going to say who it was. And they basically said what I just said, and I just repeated them. So you're alone in this, but that's okay.
No, listen, I'm very not, because people who there's a lady in my neighborhood that when I leave my house between between 3:45 and 4:15, depending on the given morning and how rough the AM goes. And sometimes the AM goes rough. Today, the AM went very rough. Okay.
I know.
Depending on
I had to make some corrections.
Depending on how rough the AM is, which Lonzo can usually judge by how many edits he has to make to the
It's
sports
words
flash.
It's like, wow, what the heck was he trying to say here? I'll just cut that whole sentence out. Yeah.
Depending on the rough day AM, anywhere from 3:45 to 4:15 is when I leave the house. Usually it's closer to the 3:45. Today it was definitely closer to the 4:15. When I leave my house, there is a lady, even on days like today, where it's, what is it, 27 degrees outside?
It was like 22 at my house.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's effectively bleep you cold outside. All right. I leave my house and this lady every day, rain or shine, sleet or hail, 26 degrees or 89 degrees in the morning, every day when I leave my house, this lady's jogging circles. And I want to point out when I say every day, I mean, when no, thank you. I
just want to prove that it's
22.
Yeah.
Every day when I leave my house, and it doesn't matter if I leave at 3:45 or 4:15. Every day when I leave my house, this lady, because we live on it's a loop. My neighborhood's like a big loop with a street around it. Every day, whether I leave at 3:45 or 4:15, this lady's jogging every day. And that's a 30-minute window. If I leave every day at 3:45 and see her, that means she's out jogging at 3:45. I shouldn't see her at 4:15. If I leave at 4:15 and I see her, that means she's out there jogging every day at 4:15. I shouldn't see her at She's out there jogging every day, meaning that not only is she out jogging every single morning, she's out jogging every single morning for at least 35 minutes every single day.
Or she's surveilling and you only see her jogging when you actually come out of the house.
I do not want to live in your world of consistent extreme paranoia where on one hand, it's just a lady taking care of herself by running every day. But in your world, she's a top secret government agent who's been sent to peep in the windows of our neighborhood in Taylor, South Carolina.
No. She's only watching you. So she only jogs when you come out of the house. She's not watching anybody else. She's surveilling you. The question is, what are you doing, man, to be surveilled? Notice the hesitation there. It's like, how do I cover myself?
No, it's how do I respond to this? That is, I say this lovingly, psychopathic thought from you. Psychopathic thought. Absolutely unfathomable to me.
You'll think about it Monday.
Welcome in. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. What a day we have lined up for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up over the course of the show today, we have got a lot that we have to get into. The water cooler cheat sheet is up at 7 o'clock this morning. At 8 o'clock, we've got your audio blitz, the best audio we have heard from the day. Chris Miller, host of the South Carolina Gamecock pre- and post-game show, is going to join us coming up at 8:30. We have got at 9 o'clock John and Kevin from the Moving the Chains podcast coming by because the high school football playoffs still ongoing. One weekend closer to the state championships. We'll talk to them about the games upcoming. And at 9:20 this morning, we will talk a little Clemson Tiger football, and we will talk a little Clemson Tiger football with Chapel Fowler of the state. Now, I know that Chapel has been on most of the shows on this network. I got the opportunity to meet Chapel for the first time back at ACC Media Days this year. I've been kicking it back and forth with him. We talk ball all the time. I have not had him on the show because I know he goes on Wire to Wire very frequently. I know he was on Offsides with Mark Ryan as a recurring guest all the time. And, I didn't want to, with respect to Chapel, I don't want to be like, yo, my man's doing like 3 interviews a week on the Fan Upstate if we didn't have to. But the more that I talk to him, the more I'm like, nah, screw that dude. Like, this guy knows his ball. He knows Clemson ball. He's fantastic. We're going to have him join us at 9:20 this morning and break down the ACC championship game as Clemson takes on SMU. And I was looking at this game last night because we obviously are going to spend quite a bit of time today breaking down SMU versus Clemson. This is the biggest game that the Tigers have played all season long. Yes, it is as big, if not bigger, than the South Carolina game last week. And now I would say at the absolute worst case, they're on equal footing because we knew going into the Palmetto Bowl that it was if you lose, you go home. If you win, you give yourself an opportunity to be in the playoffs. Had they lost to South Carolina last week, while there is the possibility that Clemson still could have gone to the playoff, there is also the possibility that, and it's unlikely, but had Clemson lost that game to South Carolina, obviously, they still could have played for the ACC title game, and they are, but there was a chance, depending on how big that game was, that Clemson dropped further down in the rankings. Why would that have mattered? Because Army is number 24 in the country. And had Army made a little bit of a rise in the rankings and Clemson fallen instead of where they fell to, but, down another couple of spots, there was the possibility that Army could have jumped Clemson, again, stretched, but Army could have Army could have outranked Clemson, won their conference championship game this weekend, and the ACC got shut out entirely. It's a Powerball lottery shot, but that possibility was on the table. Now you're in a spot where it's win and you're in for the Clemson Tigers. So this game is now the biggest game that Dabo Swinney has coached in a hot minute. But I'm also going to say this is the biggest game that Dabo Swinney has coached maybe since the last time he was on the field playing for a national championship game. Why? Because even though this team is right on the edge of the playoffs, if Dabo Swinney loses this weekend, and this is just my taking the temperature of the room conversation I've had with friends of mine who are Clemson fans, conversations that I have had with some of you on social media, conversations that have been had by some of you sending me tweets and Facebook messages, conversations that one or two of you have called the show and talked about. I genuinely think if Dabo Swinney loses this game this weekend to SMU, and I will say part of this is because I think a lot of Clemson fans are underestimating SMU. I think I don't know why. I think a lot of Clemson fans are underestimating Rhett Lashley, are underestimating Kevin Jennings, are underestimating SMU's offense, and are underestimating SMU entirely.
It's because of the conference they came from. And they believe that was an inferior conference, and there's no way someone from that conference can beat someone from the ACC, which is a dumb way of thinking because they beat everybody in the ACC that they played. They're undefeated in the ACC.
They are. I will say this. There may be some element of truth to that, but I also like ACC fans don't promote the ACC.
Have you met Clemson fans before?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Uh-huh.
I roll very frequently to the bar with Clemson fans. I'm not saying it's never happened, and I'm not saying that none of them do or that it never happens, but it is the only time that I have heard Clemson fans promoting the ACC is when Clemson needs a bump in the playoff rankings. Like, that's it, right? Like, that's week 3. I don't hear Clemson fans going around doing like SEC fans doing, chanting the conference name. And why would they?
They didn't have to, because for a long time, Clemson was the ACC. But lately they haven't been.
So all of that being said, I think that there are a lot of folks in the Clemson universe that are underestimating SMU. They do not realize what SMU is. It's a good ball club. And I think there's a sizable chunk of Clemson fans that don't recognize what Kevin Jennings is as a quarterback. Lenora Sellers gave you hell last week. 166 yards on the ground. The kid was balling out. Here's the thing. There is one difference between Lenora Sellers and Kevin Jennings. Size.
I was going to say size. Yeah.
That's it.
There's not a lot of Lenora Sellers out there.
There's not. And he is like, Lenoris is, he thick with 2 C's on the end. Like thick with a couple of C's out there. Kevin Jennings is not as thick as Lenora Sellers is.
Apologies if you're eating a biscuit right now, because that's probably.
Well, I mean, the spit doesn't come through the mic.
The sound.
Fortunately for Diesel, it all ends up right here.
The sound does though, and it's like some people can't handle sounds like that thing.
I mean, if you're one of those people that gets unsettled by sound, my wife is. It drives her crazy.
So is mine.
Sure, my wife, if I chewing too loud is damn near grounds for divorce in my house.
Chewing too loud bothers me too. I mean, I left the kitchen table because I could not teach the kids and now I'm working on the granddaughter, teaching her to eat with her mouth closed and stuff because I cannot handle it. It's gross.
I would assume the difference is the volume that is considered too loud. For her, it's like, I'll put it this way. She was on the other side of the couch. I was on the other side of the kitchen. I'm talking like a solid 15 yards of difference between us because our house is long. I was on the other side of the kitchen. She was on the other side of the couch in the living room the other night, and I was eating popcorn. Not like fresh, crispy popcorn, just like popcorn, right? Like bag grocery store popcorn. And I had my first piece of popcorn. And I know, because I know she's sensitive to this, was chewing with the mouth closed. And I like ate a piece of popcorn. TV's on. And I hear her from the other side of the room go.
See, here's the thing. The problem with your story, you don't do anything quietly. So it's I mean.
Lonzo, that is not correct because I am married now and I'm an idiot, but I'm not an idiot. I've learned the things that set her off and like, I am a good partner. I actively try to avoid doing those things. Not to say I always do, but like I've learned to be a better person about eating with volume. Doesn't matter. All right. Anyway, Kevin Jennings, Lenora Sellers. Kevin Jennings is just a skinny version of Lenora Sellers. That's it. Kevin Jennings goes 6'0", 189. Lenora Sellers goes 6'3", 242. Now, here's the good news for Clemson. A good chunk of the $166 on the ground that Lenora Sellers put up against Clemson, good chunk of that was yak yards, was yards after the carry. Good chunk of that was absorbing contact, bouncing off. Kevin Jennings doesn't really have that in the bag like Lenoris does, but Kevin Jennings is a shiftier runner than Lenoris. Kevin Jennings is better about avoiding the contact and therefore avoiding the need for yak yards. So it's a similar challenge with different nuance to it. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about this game because the reason I think it is the biggest game that Dabo's coached in for a very long time is if he loses this game, if Clemson loses this game to SMU, if Clemson does not go to the playoffs, I'm getting the vibe that even Clemson fans that have been in the Dabo for Life camp are going to start questioning that. But Clemson fans, I want to ask you if that is right or wrong. And I will. We'll talk more about it when we come back. Rob Lonzo and you, the Rob Brown Show, Friday edition rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate.
Three friends.
All right, guys. Good morning, everybody. Quick break, and we're coming right back. Don't go anywhere. right, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Kicking in the stream already. I like it. Morning, Mike. Joe, good morning, buddy. Yes, we were on the wrong side, but Lonzo fixed it. That's why he's in charge of everything. Good morning, gentlemen. My nerves are shot already this morning. My Clinton boys host the 2A Upper State Championship tonight versus Fairfield Central at 7:30. Spot the ball, boys. Let's go. Nothing better than Friday night late playoff football. We're going to have Kevin and John come by at 9 o'clock, Zach, and we will ask them about that game.
Wear an extra pair of socks. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I know people joke about it, but it actually does help.
Oh, I'm not only do I wear an extra pair of socks, I put on a regular pair of socks and then put on a pair of thermal socks on top of that. And I have a pair of hiking boots that I bought 2 sizes too big because when it's cold, that's what I wear. I'm not ashamed. I don't care. Did y'all see Portnoy, who has 100,000, said the Gamecocks should be in over them? Again, man, like Zach, there's a lot of people who feel that way. I've played, Dan Patrick feels that way. Todd McShay feels that way. Who was the other one? There was one more college football big head that said the same thing. That's all well and good. The reality here is you lost to them head to head like that. I am always going to say the brand is the big is I'm not going to say the biggest. The brand is one of the big metrics that gets you in or out. But the problem you have this year is there's a legitimate argument that they beat you. See, I'm not high on Bill Belichick. I'm still not. I'm responding to Brandon. Is this the most important game that Dabo Swinney has coached since the last time he was playing for a national championship? It feels like it is to me.
Because it's about the Dabo way, about building a team the way that Dabo builds a team without using the transfer portal.
I agree. I said coming into this year was as important of a season for Dabo Swinney as any that he's ever done. And the reason why was because this year it is. I'm not asking you if it is. I'm telling you. This year is a referendum on if the Dabo way can remain justified to Clemson. It just is. This is a year where can we do it Dabo's way and thrive is a referendum. This season is a referendum on the process and success or failure. And remember, at the beginning of the year, preseason, right as we led up to kickoff, which I think was last week, we kicked off the college football season. I asked the question, what is the definition of success for Clemson fans? And the reason I asked that question then, I did the same thing for Carolina Panthers fans, for South Carolina Gamecock fans, and I do it every year for every team. What is your definition of success? And the reason I ask that question is so that at the end of the year, we can compare the results to the expectations. And I think that's how you should approach any and everything in life. But I think it was especially big this year for Clemson to give us a referendum on, is Dabo's way still valid? Is it still potentially successful on an annual basis? And the majority of the people that I spoke with leading up to the season, when I asked Clemson fans to submit to the show what their standard of success was this year, what is the definition of success? Most of you said make the playoffs. That when I kind of looked at the spectrum of answers, there were a small handful of you that said, we just want to be proud at the end of the year. That's fine. I'm not saying that your definition of success or failure is good or bad. It's yours, right? It's yours. A handful of you said something about, wanting to be proud of the program and proud to represent the Tiger Paw. And that's fine. That's up to you though. That's subjective. I don't know that I can tell you if that's achieved yet or not. I can also tell you that there were a handful of you on the other end of the spectrum A handful of you that said, run the playoffs, like get deep into the playoffs. National championship game appearance, semifinal appearance, like not just make the playoff, but thrive in them, succeed in them. Understand that, hey, maybe we're not going to knock off the number one team in America, but like compete, and that's fine too. The majority of, and I would be comfortable saying when I averaged together the responses that I got when I asked the question, what is a season that you would say is successful? A season that you would say Dabo's way of doing it was again successful. The average answer was make the playoffs with a slight lean towards make the playoffs and win at least one game. Well, here's the deal. If you make the playoffs, depending on what happens in the Mountain West Conference Championship game, there is a path to Clemson getting a first-round bye as the fourth highest-ranked conference champion. That would mean that you do not play in the opening round. Whether or not you consider that a win in the playoffs is up to you. I would say I would. I would consider getting the bye effectively a win in the first round. So that path is open. Realistically, what's more likely is Clemson's going in as the fifth highest rated conference champion and going to have to play in the first round, likely on the road. We'll see. There's a bunch that has to shake out this weekend. However it plays out, when I asked for your expectations, the average answer was make the playoffs with a slight lean towards make the playoffs and win one game. So, if that is not consensus, but the average standard of acceptability for Clemson fans, Dabo has to win this game to have a successful season. Now, one less loss somewhere else. Don't lose to Louisville. Don't get the brakes beat off of you by Georgia. Don't lose to South Carolina in the Palmetto Bowl. One less loss, they're probably in the playoffs. Honestly, it's probably the same situation. Don't lose the ACC title game. You probably still would have to win it, but at least the door is open for you to be in a similar position to SMU of like, you lose the ACC title game, maybe you're still in, maybe you're not. You lose two less games. And I would say the two games you don't lose, Louisville and South Carolina, right? You were right there in the mix to win the South Carolina game. Honestly, respectfully, there's no excuse for getting beat by Louisville at your crib. Just no excuse for it at all. So you take those two losses out of the mix, you're probably going to the playoff either way. Not guaranteed, because we are asking the question about SMU, who is also a one-loss team. But you're probably going to the playoffs. But here you are. You got 3 losses. You win the ACC title game, you are in the playoffs. So for me, this is a must-win game for Dabo Swinney. This has to be attacked as if it is a playoff game. Because if he does not win this game, then based on the rough estimates, and I understand that our listening audience is not a representation of the entire Clemson fan base, because I'm not dumb, I'm realistic. I understand that a large swath of the Clemson fan base tunes into another station that does nothing but serve as, respectfully, Clemson's propaganda network. And that's okay. I'm not judging them. I understand it. When I want to listen to Saints football, I don't tune into random radio stations. I tune into WWL 870 AM out of New Orleans, Louisiana, our brother station. I tune into WWL 870, which is the Saints flagship down there, and I listen to that network, that station, when I want my Saints fix, right? I get it. I'm not judging. I do the same thing. But I understand that if you are a person who only cares about Clemson football, that we're not the station you're listening to. And that's okay. I'm good with that. We'd love for you to, but we get it. I understand that the Clemson fans who listen to the station are people who are Clemson fans, but they actually like sports. They like all the sports, not just one sport, one team. They like all the sports, and that's why they're here. So I understand it is only a percentage of Clemson fans. But I think it's a large enough percentage that we can say it's at least a decent representation of the Clemson fan base at large. And if that is the case, the expectation for Dabo to get out of this year without having a decent representation of the fan base asking questions about the feasibility and logistical reality of keeping Dabo Swinney, or at least not turning up the knob on the side of the hot seat under Dabo Swinney, that comes from winning this football game. If Dabo does not win this game, if Dabo allows SMU to come into the Atlantic Coast Conference in year number 1 and win the ACC in year number 1, if he allows that out of the gate, then I do think that a swath of Clemson fans are going to start asking about having tough conversations this offseason. Because what I will tell you is this, and I can tell you this from having covered Florida State football and Florida football when I was down in Florida. I can tell you this from having covered the Jacksonville Jaguars when I was in Jacksonville. I can tell you from having covered Alabama and Auburn football well before Nick Saban when I was down in Pensacola and we were on in Mobile, Alabama. I can tell you that this is true about LSU football from having covered them when I was in Pensacola, but we were broadcasting in Baton Rouge back in the Rob Brown formative years. Every year that you are in the middle of the pack, you are falling further behind the people that are in the front of the pack. Every year that you are not in the mix. You know what? I've made this analogy before. For those of you that don't watch NASCAR, it may be lost on you. For those of you that do, you'll understand it. It's like running a race at Daytona. If you're running a race at Daytona, you better have your nose on the booty of the car ahead of you, and you better stay there. Because the second that you fall out of line, and the second that the cars ahead of you put any space between you and in the back, and you lose that draft, you're done. The only hope that you have is a restart and a reset. But if it's late in the race, that's not going to happen. So, the longer that Clemson hangs out as a 3-loss football team that can't win the ACC, in a down year in the ACC, respectfully, the further you get from putting Clemson back on top of the college football landscape. If the Dabo way isn't going to work in this new era of college football, you need to make the decision on that sooner rather than later. Because every year that you allow the teams that are using the portal and NIL and all these newfangled college football resources to get further ahead of you, the harder it's going to be for you to catch up with them. This is the biggest game that Dabo has coached since the last time he was coaching for a national championship. Because if he does not win this game and make the playoffs, a lot of y'all told me on this show you'd start asking questions about whether it's practical to keep him any longer. We'll talk more about that as the show rolls on. Chapter Fowler will join us at 9 o'clock to talk about that as well. The Rob Brown Show carries on. It's the Fan Upstate. My mouth just stopped working at the end of that segment. Oh, sorry.
I should have turned my mic off earlier because I wasn't speaking. That's my fault.
Devon Clemson are going to lose to Southern Methodist University. Yeah, I mean, I agree, Tony. And again, like I firmly am on board with the get with it or get left behind. I mean, I don't think you have a choice. And I think that's true of, honestly, any sport, any level. I think if you're not with it, you are falling behind for sure. My question mark here is there a spot where it's too late? Is there a spot where you have to come to the recognition that you've allowed the pack to get too far ahead and another hard reset is the only option? And my stylus doesn't work on the tablet of truth anymore. Sweet.
We are not getting traffic this morning for some reason. All right, it's 6:37 in the morning, and I am normally dense, but even more so this morning, Zach. I don't understand. Rob looked at it. He's not giving me an explanation. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure what. But I'm not cool anymore, so.
Yeah, it could be. Well, same here. We know that I'm way away from that, so. Use old man words, Zach. There's probably an old man thesaurus out there somewhere.
So the University of North Carolina has apparently interviewed Bill Belichick to replace Mac Brown as the head coach. Now, I'm gonna tell you right now.
You already put in for ACC Media Day credentials. Now.
No, because I again,
you don't want to talk to Bill?
I mean, I want to talk to Bill for sure. Like, I'd love to sit down with the hoodie and have the conversation, but I don't see how that's a good idea. You'll have to forgive me. I don't see how that's a good idea.
He doesn't have a coaching job right now, and maybe he wants to try college. I mean, you think he should go to a different school?
No, I think I personally, I don't care if I take heat for this because I'm right. Dude's 72 and has not ever been a college football head coach, and certainly not anywhere close to the landscape of what college football is today, right? Like, that is an undertaking that I just don't know. I mean, there is some level of, would he have the Deion Sanders approach, right? Like, would he show up and just by being hoodie, by being a guy who can go recruit, by going, hey, look, here's Super Bowl rings on my hand. And oh, yeah, that's right. I need a finger over here to carry them all around. I know NFL ball. I can get you there. Is that enough? Would there be a huge amount of UNC fans that start adding to the collectives in order to get Bill the talent?
Arguably the greatest NFL coach of all time coming to coach at your team, despite his age. How old is Mac Brown?
Mac Brown has been a head coach in college for 20 plus
years. I know, but how old is he?
Hoodie's age, roughly, I think.
I think he might be older.
Mac Brown is 73, so he's a year older than Hoodie.
Yeah.
But Mac Brown has been doing that for 20. I will take a guy who's been coaching as a head coach since his 50s at 72 versus a guy who's going to put his first foot into the waters at 72 and a guy that's putting his first foot in the waters. And we know
all right.
Hoodie's personality, which you know in today's college football, ain't going to fly.
I'm not trying to do a thing that you're going to accuse me of. I'm just, in Rob Brown's mind, what age is too old to start a new job? I get all the things you're saying, but is there in your mind?
There's no hard line on it.
Okay.
There's no hard line. There's no, this is like, you can't do this anymore. Right. Like, I'll put it this way.
If I were to lose my job today, which could happen, you never know, and I needed to start a new career, I hope someone will give me a chance.
There is a difference between give you a chance to start a new career and give you a chance to start a new career as the damn CEO of a company. right? Like if you lost your job tomorrow, could I take Lonzo down to a bank and get him working in that bank in a role that he can learn the job, grow in the career, and become a successful employee in that bank? Absolutely. Could I take you right now and put you in charge of the bank's entire investment division and feel like you succeed? Respectfully, no.
Yeah,
but also me, and I'm half your age.
This is different because he has a ton of experience in football. So it's not, I mean, in your scenario, I would have had to have some experience in banking. He has experience in football at a different level, but he still is, like what I said, arguably the greatest coach of all time in the NFL. So he knows how to coach football. He also knows, how to coach
professional football,
which is what college has become with NIL. And he, on the NFL level, he had complete control. What do you have when you're in college? You have complete control. I think the transition of him, the way he coached and the way he managed his football team, I think that the transition would not be nearly as difficult as another NFL coach moving down.
I disagree for a handful of reasons. Number one, and this is there's two, let's go with two primary reasons this won't work. Number one, and I think we all witnessed this. You're right. He had complete control. What happened when Tom Brady left? I'm sorry. Like I'm just worried. The objective fact is Tom Brady left the hoodie. Hoodie's team sucked. Brady won a Super Bowl. That's not debatable. Tom left New England. New England, would they go the year after Brady left? 6 wins under Hoodie? 6 wins. Enough that Robert Kraft decided, I'm moving on. This ain't it for us anymore. Brady went down to Tampa and won a Super Bowl.
He won the Super Bowl because both the tackles
you can say it's for whatever reason.
Both tackles got injured for Kansas City before the Super Bowl.
He left New England. Fine. He left.
What did he do after that?
Hang on.
What did he do after that?
Hang on. Fine. He left. Belichick's team sucked. Brady went to a Super Bowl.
What did he do after that?
Who cares? He went to a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. What did he do the next year?
He barely won 8 or 9 in the NFC South.
What did the Patriots do? Fired Bill Belichick, right? I understand, and this is an opportunity.
Later, or how many years later was it?
2.
Dude, I think it was more than that.
3. Doesn't matter. Great. Let's use the entire length of time that they were separated. What did the Patriots do at any point in that time? Not a damn thing. And did Hoodie have complete control?
What did Tampa Bay do after that?
Won a Super Bowl.
What did they do after that initial run?
Fall apart because all of their free agents decided, I'm a Super Bowl champ. I'm going elsewhere to get a bunch more money. It was Brady, Godwin, Evans.
I mean, you can find reasons.
Offensive line broke up.
Your reasons are effective. Anything I use is not.
No, because so,
he could do this job if he wants to do this job. I think it would be awesome if he ends up doing it. But I think it's a smokescreen to get another job. I don't think he's actually going to do it.
We'll find out. Here's what I'm going to say. Number one, the NFL and college football play the same sport and have nothing else in common. There is nothing else in common. You can make the argument now that because the players get NIL money, that it's not anywhere close to the same world. It's just not. Because the NIL money that players are getting is not enforceable contract money. If Deontay Johnson decides he's going to be a jackass in Baltimore, there are paths of recourse the Ravens can take to rein that in that impact his money and his paycheck. That's not the same in college football. It's just not. In college football, guys can leave anytime they want. They got 2 windows to leave. It's open right now, the transfer portal window is. It's open now. Guys could yesterday, the day before, they can go, this sucks, I'm out, later, see ya. Can't do that in the NFL. You sign a contract for X amount of age, you can demand a trade, you can whatever, but you don't just have the right to just be like, I'm out, deuces, later, peace. You suck, I'm going. That's not an option. There are all sorts of differences, even just in the one element of college football that you are talking about. There's 100 reasons why it's not the same. You have boiled it down to they're getting paid. But it is an entirely different world of getting paid than the way it works in the NFL. Number 2.
By the way, there was more to what I said. It wasn't just that. I also said how he had control in the Patriots organization. He would have the same kind of control as a college coach. There are parallels with how he ran the Patriots that he could run a college team.
I'm not disagreeing with that. What I am disagreeing with is if you were on the New England Patriots, you adopted the Belichick way, or you were under control, but you couldn't do anything about it. It's not that way at college. If Bill Belichick comes in and he takes over, and I will tell you this about Matt Brown. I've interviewed him probably 7 times during my career. I interviewed him back in Florida when he was the head coach at Texas 2 years in a row because he came to an event that we threw every year. I've interviewed him twice at ACC Media Days over the past 4 years running now. Matt Brown's a coach with a hell of a lot of personality. Matt Brown's a dude that is like, he is loosey-goosey. He's fun. He's got a great, he loves to laugh. He's got a great personality. You put a mic in front of that guy and he has a ball. I'm going to give credit to Belichick for this. Belichick has really kind of won me over. I don't want to say won me over. He's not like a guy I'm going out of my way for. But I don't dread his on-air appearances on McAfee and on the Manning Cast and all these places that Bill's showing up. You will notice one thing. With the exception of the film room show that he's doing, and even that is true about, Bill's not a guy that anybody's putting on a camera by himself, right? Like, he is the exact opposite of Mac Brown. Mac Brown's a guy I'm going to hand it a mic into and be like, go bananas, coach. Have a good time. It is a completely different mentality, attitude, and culture around Hoodie than it is Mac. So if he rolls up into UNC and he goes, I know you guys used to live, laugh, love with Mac Brown, but we ain't doing that crap anymore. It is now my world. Bro, his team can just leave. They just buy, yep, we're done, we're out. And now what I got to do is I got to send a 72-year-old coach who's never done this before out onto the road to sit in a living room with 16 and 17-year-old men and convince them to come do things the Hoodie way. He's got a great argument, which is, I got 6 rings. I've won the Super Bowl 6 times. If anybody can get you ready for the league, it's me.
By the way,
great argument.
We've seen an older guy go to a college, clean house, bring in kids, and in the second year, won a bunch of games.
Are you comparing Hoodie to Deion Sanders?
Absolutely. I am.
You are comparing.
Yes, I am.
Wait, hang on. Let me act. I want to dramatically act this out. You are comparing.
The dramatic is definitely a good word here.
Head coach in the North Carolina Tar Heels, Bill Belichick. To get your dome bags ready. I brought my own, and it's Louis. You're comparing those two individuals.
I am, because it's a guy with no college coaching experience. Was just a
no, that's not true. Deion had.
He did.
Deion had coaching experience.
But when he came into that level, when he came into that experience, he won there too. But so my thing is, I don't automatically dismiss it like you're doing. I believe it could work. And I'm not even a big Belichick fan because he's a cheater. But I still think it can work.
Whatever reason you want to dislike him, that's fine. If you think it works, it's going to work. And to a degree, I kind of hope North Carolina hires him, because it's going to be one of two things. Either I'm wrong, and we're going to have a really interesting new development aspect of progression in college football, or I'm right, and it's going to be a dumpster fire, and I'm going to get a ton of content out of it. And it's great. I can't imagine stressed out Bill Belichick on the sideline.
You just pointed out we only get content if you were right.
No. I started off by saying either I'm wrong, and we are going to have an interesting perspective on college football.
If you were right, I mean, you did just say that. So
I understand. Then let me clarify my use of the word content here.
Okay.
All right. Either it's gonna work, and Hoodie shocks the hell out of me, and I'm wrong, and I come in here and I absolutely eat my crow medium rare, and we all go, this is interesting. Bill Belichick is changing the way that we look at college football, much like people think Deion Sanders is doing. Whether he is or is not, we will find out. But Deion Sanders changed the landscape of college football. For the good or the bad, we're still waiting on finding out. But Bill Belichick could come in and you can go, hey, because I've said for years, cash culture and coach, right? Well, different culture. Kids respond well to different cultures. Juan Soto in New York did not respond well to the culture in San Diego, which is very player first, very you guys run the locker room. It's your squad, your team, do it the way you want to do, versus the Yankees who go, you can't grow facial hair here. We are dictating every day, every second, every minute of your life. And Soto did not respond well in San Diego, was an AL MVP candidate in New York. Different kids, and he's 26. That's why I say kids. Different kids respond well to different cultures. Maybe Hoodie comes in and he brings an NFL culture and he brings the Belichickian way, and it works, and I eat my crow, and we have a very interesting legitimate college football conversation to have about philosophy and attacking the coaching position and yada, yada, yada. Or the other side of that coin, which is Belichick comes in, he's Bill. Bill's culture doesn't work. It falls apart in a hilarious fashion, and I get content from the standpoint of, I told you, look how ridiculous this is. All right, we'll talk more about this later on in the show. Remington, kind enough to join the show. What up, big dog? Welcome back, brother.
Hey, man, love you guys' show.
Thank you.
Just wanted to say it doesn't matter who Chapel Hill hires to coach their football team. The Wolfpack's still going to beat them every year. And, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Plant the flag, young man. Plant the flag. Remington just rolled in here and stuck a verbal flag into the interlocked baby blue N and C. We'll find out. Like I said, I hope they do it because respectfully, I'm getting content either way. Even if I'm wrong and Belichick comes in and he takes North Carolina to the highest highs of all time, that's content.
But I think you pointed out which one you would rather happen, that he takes it and he fails.
I don't have a preference, just so we're clear.
Act like we get more content if he fails because that's okay.
Listen to what I just said again. Either I get content from the perspective of, wow, we actually need to have a conversation about the philosophy of college football and the way that coaches can and can't work, because the dichotomy between Deion Sanders and the way he's running his program and Belichick and the way he runs a program are vastly different, yet they're both working, so maybe we need to talk about that. And that's a serious sports talk conversation over here. Or Hoodie fails, and I got a hilarious roster of audio every week out of Bill Belichick.
I think we all heard which one you're more excited about.
I'm not, again, I don't know why it is that when I say a thing, you just say, no, that's not what you really mean.
No, because you changed your tone, dude. You got all excited about him failing, and you went matter of fact about if he succeeds.
Because you understand the gravity of the two conversations that are a result.
We all heard it.
It's okay
that you want him to fail. I mean, it's fine. It's not okay. You sitting here saying I'm wishing for the demise of anyone. I'm not. There are people I do. But I'm kind of over the Hawk Tua girl. She got to go. And by the way, he could never work another day in his life if he invested correctly with all the money he made. He don't need to work.
I still think he has the money. I think this is because Hoodie wants to coach.
Yeah.
I agree. I think he wants in, and I'm good with that. I got no issue with that. I just don't think he's going to be good at it. I don't think he was good after
failure
Tomlin.
Will not mean bankruptcy, probably.
No,
failure
Bill's
will just mean I tried it, it didn't work.
And on top of that, Hoodie signing a freaking fat deal in North Carolina, and what are those college? There is not a better job in the world than fired college football coach.
I do enjoy the jokes that his girlfriend's a sophomore at the school. I do it. Those are.
That's it. Good. He could be like, I want $10 million a year, and I want free tuition for my girlfriend.
Wait. Maybe that's why he's really going back to college.
Maybe it is. Maybe she's like, Bill, I can't afford college. And he's like, I get you free tuition.
No, in case he wants to move on.
Yeah.
There's a full crop.
Oh, got the whole roster of sorority girls right there. You ain't wrong. All right. We got a lot more we get to, a lot more to talk about. I want your thoughts on this. Do you think that this is a decent move, a good idea for North Carolina, like Lonzo does? Or do you think it's setting him up for an absolute disaster like I do? We'll talk more about this later on in the show. We got the water cooler cheat sheet coming up next. Top 3 sports stories we need to get to. We've got for the entire second part of hour number 2, ACC championship game preview and breakdown. We got the Moving the Chains fellas at 9. Chapel Fowler talks Clemson SMU at 9:20. And whatever other shenanigans and tomfoolery we get into after Lonzo Shefties you with this sports flash.
That's wow.
The door's open.
The door's open. It's 2-1 now. The Detroit Lions converted a 4th down with less than a minute to play on their way to a game-winning field goal and a 34-31 victory over Green Bay last night. Jared Goff was 32 of 41 for 283 yards, 3 touchdowns and 1 pick in the win. Detroit improves to 12-1 on the season. South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball team knocked off number 8 Duke last night, 81-70. The Gamecocks were led by Chloe Kitts, 21 points and 11 boards. Every South Carolina player scored, including 30 points from bench players. The Gamecocks recorded 13 takeaways and 8 blocks. in the contest. Carolina Hurricanes recorded win number 17 last night with a 5-3 victory over the Colorado Avalanche. Tune in tomorrow at 11:30 as the Furman Paladins take on the Princeton Tigers. It's Furman versus Princeton right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball. The Fan, Upstate. See, I disagree with Rob. I believe that college football now is more like the NFL than it ever has been, which I think makes it easier for a NFL coach to come down and coach college football because of all the money that's involved now. Three friends at the first break.
10-4. Number 2 of the Rob Brown Show starts now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. Welcome in. Great to be with you for 3 more hours of sports talk, fun, and shenanigans here on a Friday morning, a conference championship Friday morning. Yes, indeed. We got a fistful of games tomorrow, and you better enjoy them, because after this, we have totally meaningless bowl games that nobody cares about.
The average fan
and playoffs.
Check out right now. They checked out last week when their team was done.
I
mean, diehards are going to watch. People excited about the playoffs are going to watch. But if your team's not in it, are you still watching, or are you already making plans? Okay, I'm going shopping Saturday. I'm doing this. I'll check the scores later. That type of thing.
I don't know. I think that
I know that's not your way of thinking. So, I mean, and I get that.
Last year's national championship game recorded 28 million viewers. That means that roughly 8% of the country, 7% of the country watched that game.
But I'm talking about championship games. I'm not talking about the national championship.
Yeah, I mean, if your team's out of a bowl game, maybe. But I also think that, and the Armada knows bowl. And I imagine that the Armada is comprised largely of people who are going to watch every playoff game, even if their team's not in them.
All right. So both my college teams are not playing this weekend, but there are only 2 games that I'm interested in.
ACC title game, Big Ten title game?
No, I'm not even interested in the Big Ten title game. ACC and SEC. I want to see Clemson lose, and I want to see if Georgia can beat Texas.
Why are you not interested in the Big Ten title game? That's your conference. Don't you want to see what the Ducks and the Nittany Lions?
I saw what Ohio State did to Penn State. There's no chance Penn State upsets Oregon. So no, I mean, because as I pointed out, not a conference guy. I don't care. Ohio State's not playing for the Big Ten title. I don't care. Clemson and SMU, I do care for a couple of reasons. One, I want Clemson to lose just because the fans are so mean to me, and I've always been kind to them. I've never done anything ever that would make them mad, because I don't do that. I am above that sort of thing, and I would never, ever do that. And I picked SMU to win. So I want that to happen, and I also picked Texas to win. So I want to watch that because, as you pointed out today about you, and I'm going to point it out about me, it's about me, and I only care about me being right.
Well, obviously we're aware of that.
I'm not right very often, but there's a couple chances tomorrow for me to be right. The sad part is I think both those games are on at the same time. They're both on at 8:00, I believe.
No, the SEC championship game's in the daytime. It's at 4:00.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
What's the other game on at 8:00 then?
ACC
That's probably the Big Ten title.
The schedule tomorrow. First off, the schedule starts today at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
You've got Western Kentucky, Jayville State. UNLV Boise State is tonight at 8:00. That game matters a lot. Boise State wins. They're catching a bye. So you have a game tonight that impacts not just the playoffs, but the top 4. And on top of that, there's a lot of belief that if Boise State loses this game, they're out of the playoffs entirely. They're at 10. They are in a rough spot. We've talked about SMU. Boise State's behind them. So if Ward Manuel, the CFB playoff selection committee chairman, has already said that there is a chance SMU would fall behind Bama, you and I and everybody else knows Boise State certainly is falling behind Alabama in that case. So that game matters. And then Tulane Army tonight at 8:00 as well from West Point. That one's kind of interesting as well because both Tulane and Army are again, outside looking in. They would need a couple of teams to get their asses handed to them. But Army at number 24 is technically a live threat to sneak in as the 5th-ranked team. So you got games that matter tonight. Tomorrow at noon is the Big 12 title game in Arlington. You have got the SEC title game at 4:00, and then you've got both the Big 10 and ACC championship games at 8 p.m. And we're going to talk about all of these games over the course of the show. But it is 7:05 and some change in the morning. You have just seconds more than 54 minutes to get up and get your sleepy behind to the office to get ready for your workday. But more importantly, to take that first break, to walk down the hall, to step out. Don't step outside. It's too cold to take your break outside today. All right, go to the break room today. Stand against the far wall. The boss can't see you when he comes creeping down the hallway, making sure everybody's being productive at 8:15 a.m. No, go take your break and talk some sports with your coworkers. But see, you're going to do that, you got to know what's going on. And if you got to know what's going on in the world of sports, you came to the right place because we do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
"Are you guys sniffing on newsprint or something?"
Take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It's the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers, with your dog, whoever you spend your workday with. This is what you will be talking about. Let's dive right into item number 1. A little Thursday night football. Got the NFL week started off last night, and it was a banger of a game. 34-31. The Detroit Lions improved to 12-1 with a dub over NFC North rival, the Green Bay Packers. Detroit had the ball inside of a minute left to play. They face 4th down with the game tied at 31. They needed to pick up 1 yard. A stop from Green Bay would give them the ball back, no timeouts, but about 40 seconds to figure out how to get into field goal range for the win themselves. But Detroit, in a model of grit and determination, pick up the first down, run the clock down to just seconds remaining, and boot a game winner to walk off the pack. Jared Goff, 32 of 41, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. David Montgomery, 14 carries for 51 yards and a touchdown as well. Wide receiver Tim Patrick had not scored in 1,000 years, did it twice last night, caught 2 out of 3 touchdowns from Jared Goff. Jahmyr Gibbs was the recipient of the other touchdown. Jordan Love didn't have a bad day, didn't have a good day. 12 of 20, 206 yards and 1 touchdown. The Packer fans thought that Jordan Love was going to ball out. Packers have been very good on the road, by the way, but they dropped one last night. Josh Jacobs, 18 carries, 66 yards, scored 3 times for the Green Bay Packers. The other touchdown was a Tucker Kraft touchdown, but that wasn't Tucker Kraft's shining moment last night. Did you see the kip up, Lonzo? Did you see the Tucker Kraft kip up?
I did not. That was a little late for me.
Tucker Kraft caught a pass working right to left across the field, hurdled a defender. Good hurdle, too. Hurdled a defender, but then the free safety for Detroit came over and popped him out of the air. I mean, flat backed him. Well, everybody, you could hear the audible, oh!
Actually, yes, I have seen that. I saw that this morning on SportsCenter. So
and then Tucker Kraft on his back puts the hands on the ground over his head and hits a full sail Drew McIntyre kip up off the canvas to get back and immediately shut the Lions fans right back up. That really was the only thing from that game I cared about. It was a slapper of a game. Absolute banger of a game, but that was cool.
That was a really good hit, too.
It was a great hit.
Yeah, so.
But in that moment, when you've got a stadium full of people that are losing their mind because you just took that shot, there is no better way to climb back into it than to hit the kip up that says, your finishing move does not affect me. You just gave me the best shot you have, and I'm still just literally jumping up off the ground and counting 3, 2, 1, Claymore. Spectacular kip up there from Tucker Kraft. Lions win 34-31 walking off. Let's go to item number 2. 2 stadium stories out of Major League Baseball. One of them out of Tampa, Florida. One of them out of Las Vegas, Nevada. We start down in Tampa, where the Tampa Bay Rays potential new ballpark got a boost last night when the St. Petersburg City Council voted to approve the bonds necessary to finance a $1.3 billion new stadium. Now, that is only part of the deal. The Pinellas County Commission must also decide whether to approve in its share of the stadium. They will vote later in December. Meanwhile, the Rays will play this season in the New York Yankees spring training site because Tropicana Field was jacked up from hurricane damage during this offseason. The Rays said it is impossible to play at the Trop next year and maybe not again until 2026. If that is true or not, I don't know. It may have just been a way to push St. Pete and Pinellas County to go ahead and approve the funding because, and this is where it's going to get very interesting, and a story that I will be following. I don't know how much play it's going to have for you guys, but I am interested in it. The people in St. Pete and Pinellas County are not super excited about this project. They are looking at the potential between the county and St. Petersburg. They are looking at the potential for $2-ish billion of public money to go into this stadium, to the point that there's a big controversy. I got a friend who's a sheriff's deputy down in Pinellas County, and I had this conversation with him a couple of days ago. They were real mad about the vote by St. Pete Council last night because apparently St. Pete Council kind of like announced the meeting around this vote very late and held it late at night, trying to dissuade the public from coming out. They think this is kind of shady, underhanded to approve this $1.3 billion stadium. The stadium is part of a $6.5 billion project that is going to be built around the stadium itself. So we'll see what happens. This has got the opportunity to get nasty down in St. Pete. The other stadium news is that the Las Vegas Stadium Authority approved a lease, non-relocation, and development agreement yesterday to clear the last major hurdles for the now Southern California Athletics to make their final move to Las Vegas, Nevada. The last major hurdles cleared last night for the $1.75 billion stadium on the Las Vegas Strip that will bring MLB to an expanding sports market. Steve Hill is the CEO and president of the Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, said in remarks yesterday, "It's a really significant day in Las Vegas. Today's a real milestone. I think we should recognize that and celebrate that." Now, they are not done yet. There are some other details that do have to be worked out, including a development agreement with Clark County, but the plan right now is for groundbreaking to take place in the spring to allow a scheduled opening for the 2028 season, meaning that the A's will be playing 25, 26, and 27 in a minor league ballpark. Could you imagine busting your bootay to get yourself to MLB? And you get drafted in, and then you get sent to play your Major League Baseball in a minor league ballpark. Could you imagine being a 14, 15-year Major League Baseball vet? You're winding down your career. You're hoping for one more run, and then you get sent to Vegas, and you spend your twilight years in Major League Baseball playing in a minor league stadium because John Fisher and the A's are so damn greedy and inept that they would rather push you to play in front of maybe 12,000 people in a minor league stadium instead of just sucking it up and getting it done and staying in Oakland until you move to Vegas. Also that they don't have to pay a few $100 million out of their multi-billion-dollar wealth. Yeah, well, have fun. The A's won't have fans for a very long time. They'll get them back when they move to Vegas, but they're going 3 years without fans. I don't know if that matters or not. Finally, item number 3. We talked about this a little bit back in hour number 1. I'm sure it'll come back up later on as well. But the North Carolina Tar Heels fired Mack Brown earlier this week. Mack Brown, of course, had been the Heels coach for a long time, including 2 different stints, one before he went to Texas and one after leaving Texas and making his way back to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Well, they relieved Mack Brown of his duties, which respectfully makes sense. North Carolina the last 2 years have had about as much talent on the roster as they have had since, Julius Peppers played there a couple of decades ago, and they really were disappointing under Mack Brown. I mean, I had lofty ambition for the North Carolina Tar Heels, and they just never achieved it. So they decided to move on. And now we have the first name that is reportedly in consideration to replace Mack Brown. It is 72-year-old Bill Belichick. Now, just for the sake of fairness, let me also point out that he is 72-year-old 6-time Super Bowl winner, Bill Belichick. He was out of football this year after leaving the Patriots following the 2023 season, which, yes, he left the Patriots. Let's be clear. Bob Kraft was going to fire him. Hoodie, you can walk out on your terms or you can walk out on ours, but you are walking out. Well, sources told ESPN yesterday that Belichick, who spent his entire career in the NFL, wants to coach again and is open to listening to people at both the college and NFL levels. The Tar Heels were 44-33 under Mac Brown, dating back to his second stint, which began in 2019. They were 6-6 this season. Belichick is the biggest name to emerge in the North Carolina coaching search, but there are other college coaches who North Carolina is interested in. Tulane's John Summerall was near the top of North Carolina's wish list. Iowa State's Matt Campbell, Georgia defensive coordinator Glenn Schumann, and Steve Wilkes, who was the Cardinals head coach in 2018, the Panthers interim coach in 2022, and was a volunteer assistant this season for the Charlotte 49ers. Could make his way down there. Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith is a UNC grad. He was asked but declined the Tar Heels invitation for an interview because he wants to remain in the NFL and has sights on a head coaching career. We will see if Hoodie ends up taking the job, is even end up being offered the job, because I just don't know that. I just don't know. But we'll see. We'll talk more about that. All right, let's run to a break. When we come back, we are going to spend quite a bit of time breaking down tomorrow's Atlantic Coast Conference Championship game. And I think it's important to do two different angles on this game. The first angle is, what's the game look like? What does Clemson need to do to win this game? The second angle is, what does Clemson need to do to win this game? Because a win puts them into the college football playoffs. And before the season began, I asked Clemson fans to chime in on the show. What is your definition of a successful season? What would you consider a result that is deemed successful? And the primary answer, the answer we got that I think was the most popular answer, was make the playoffs, win a game. Does that make this the biggest game that Dabo Swinney has coached since the last time he coached for a national championship? The answer to me is yes. But is it to you, Clemson fans? I'll ask you when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Three friends.
All right, guys, another reading. We're coming back. Stay right there for me. Thank you. The renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone is 844-FANFOE. That's 844-326-3663. The text line is 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. And the Ray Memorial Hotline is available for you as well. The Ray Memorial Hotline is available by going to the Odyssey app, A-U-D-A-C-Y, going to the Fan Upstate page by searching the Fan Upstate in the search bar at the top. Once you get there, click on the little heart icon. So every time you open the Odyssey app, you can come straight to the Fan Upstate page. And on the middle of the Fan Upstate page in the Odyssey app is a little circle button with a microphone inside of it. If you push that button, you can record a 30 to 60 second voice note that comes directly to the great one and I. I will also tell you that Captain America, Chris Evans, how do I say that word? Captain America, Chris Evans down the hall. There it is. There it is. I've done this before. Captain America, Chris Evans down the hall, and I had a conversation yesterday. We're also going to be setting up, if going in that direction is just too complicated for you, we are also going to be setting up a phone line that will be available to you 24/7, 365. So you can call it at any time and leave us a voice message. I will let you know when we get that running. Hopefully in the next week or two, we'll have that up and at your leisure. But until then, the Ray Memorial Hotline is up and running for you. Go to the Odyssey app, A-U-D-A-C-Y. Go to the Fan Upstate page, click on the little circle button with the microphone in it, and leave us that 30 to 60 second voice message and give us your thoughts on just about anything. Now, the reason that I opened this segment of the show.
Hey, what happens if they go over 60?
You can't. It cuts you off at 60. Like once it gets to 60, you're done.
So I challenge
now you can leave another one.
I challenge you, listeners, to have so much to say that you get cut off in a creative way.
You can immediately record another one. I will say this: there is no limit to the number of messages that you're allowed to send.
And then it cuts off. So we don't know what you were actually calling Rob.
Do it again.
No,
do it again.
I'm not.
Rob, you have at it. And for the record, I don't particularly care if you say in your message. That's why I have the button. All right, have at it. I don't care.
Don't compliment him though, because he hates that. So don't stroke the ego. Don't tell him what a wonderful person.
Rob Brown, you handsome son of a. Have at it. All right, have at it. The Ray Memorial Hotline only on the Odyssey app. Go to the Fan Upstate page. Click the circle button.
By the way, you don't have to talk exclusively to him. I mean, you can say something
whatever
to
you
me.
Want.
You know, or say something to Cole or to Diesel.
Whatever you want. It's there for you. The point is for you to say anything and everything you want anytime that you want to say it. Now, the reason I bring up all of the methods of communication is because I want to ask Clemson fans a question. We've talked about this in the beginning of the season. I asked you, Clemson fans, I asked you to define success when we started this season. I asked you to tell me, what is your definition of success? And I did that for a reason. The reason that I asked you to define success was so at the end of the year, we would have the Fan Upstate metric of whether success or failure was obtained by the Clemson Tiger program. Now, this wasn't just an exercise in evaluating the program. It was also an exercise in evaluating Dabo Swinney. It was an exercise in evaluating the Dabo way. It was an exercise in evaluating whether or not the way that Dabo Swinney has elected to run his football program, which is with an old school college football mentality. That is not to say that Dabo won't use the transfer portal, but he's not going to lean on it. Dabo has said time after time, including directly to me on this show in the past, Dabo has said, hey, we bring in guys that we believe will be successful. We bring in guys that we believe are Clemson football players. We bring in guys that we believe we can develop. We don't see the need to go get a guy who did not sign on to be a Clemson football player that wants to come here after he's played somewhere else. And that's fine. It is his football program to run as he chooses. But when you see other programs like Georgia, like Alabama, like Ohio State, when you see other programs that are leaning into the portal, when you see other programs that are busting it to generate NIL opportunities for their players, when you look at the way that other coaches that are in the hunt to be the best in the game are running their program, I think it is fair to say that this year is a referendum on Dabo Swinney. We are now 3 years into the NIL and transfer portal era. And I have said this. This has been my kind of operating perspective, if you will. When a coach gets hired into a college football program, at least before the NIL and the portal era, traditionally we have said, you have 3 years to show us an upward trajectory, and we need to see success in year number 4. If you do not show us an upward trajectory in 3 years, you are gone. If you do not show us success in year 4, you are gone. Because at that point, you will have cycled out the guys that were left over from the last coaching staff and cycled in an entire roster of your own dudes that you get to pick and recruit. You got to show me success. Well, this is the end of year 3 in the transfer portal and the NIL era. This is the year that I think we can gauge whether or not a coach is able to successfully navigate this new era of college football. And I told you when the NIL and the portal era kicked off, I was already here. I told you when it kicked off, there's going to be a lot of coaches who fail to adapt to this new era of college football. There are going to be a lot of coaches that just cannot get it. That happens in every industry. Every industry, at some point, there is a revolution. There is a new era that comes on the scene. I'll give you one right now because I was hands-on when this was happening. There was a point in time about 8-9 years ago where television channels began to recognize that just putting a news broadcast on TV ain't going to do it for you anymore. You've got to be reaching out to people across the internet. You've got to have a website that is constantly updated with news stories and pictures and videos that they can't get anywhere else. You've got to have social media for all of your on-air personalities so fans can interact with them. And you have to use all of that to drive people to the primary product. It doesn't work without it anymore. And there were a lot of television personalities who just could not get with it. They just couldn't do it. They didn't want to do social media. They refused to do it. Once they got on social media, they couldn't figure out how to make it work. And those people got effectively phased out of television, right? College football is no different. I told you then there are going to be guys that are going to get phased out of college football because they just cannot figure out or refuse to figure out this new era. Well, this year feels to me as if it is a referendum on whether or not Dabo can successfully thrive in the new era without, I won't say refusing to utilize, but without actively engaging with these new resources. A, do you guys feel the same way? And B, if you do, is this ACC title game tomorrow night in Charlotte, North Carolina, a referendum on whether or not Dabo is capable of doing it anymore in the new age of college football? And if he loses this game to SMU and does not win the ACC and go to the College Football National Championship playoffs, will you be out? Or will you be ready to have a tough conversation? Clemson fans, I want your thoughts. When we come back, let's talk about the game itself. Let's break down the X's and O's of the ACC title game next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Rob Brown.
All right, guys, give me just 30 seconds. I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Of Lenora Sellers. Lenora Sellers goes 6'3", 242. He is, as the kids say, with a couple of C's on the end. Kevin Jennings ain't. Kevin Jennings goes 6 foot 189. But I would also make the argument that Kevin Jennings is faster than Lenora Sellers. This year, and yes, I know it was in the Southeastern Conference, so it's a little bit different, but Lenora Sellers ran for roughly 500 fewer yards than Kevin Jennings. 500 fewer yards than Kevin Jennings did. That's 2.5 Clemson games worth of yards. Kevin Jennings this year is looking at 2,700 passing yards. Lenora Sellers, 2,200 passing yards. Kevin Jennings threw for 19 touchdowns this year. Lenora Sellers, 17. Kevin Jennings and Lenora Sellers both threw 7 interceptions. Kevin Jennings had a 74.1 season-long QBR. That is the 24th in America. Lenora Sellers, a 70.3 QBR. That is good for 36th in the country. In terms of rushing yards, I said rushing yards a minute ago. I meant passing yards. I apologize. Kevin Jennings threw for 500 more yards than Lenora Sellers did. Looking at the individual statistics on the ground, This year, Lenoris ran 155 times for 655 yards. Jennings 83 times for 344 yards. Lenoris Sellers rushed for 7 touchdowns. Kevin Jennings ran for 4 rushing touchdowns. So Lenoris has got better rushing stats than Kevin Jennings, but Jennings has dramatically better passing stats than Lenoris Sellers does. He has a better QBR. He has more touchdowns. He has 500 more passing yards. Just about every metric, with the exception of interceptions, where these two quarterbacks are tied, just about every other metric is roughly identical. Roughly identical. So because of that, I do think that there is some concern. Here it is. After going back and rewatching the Palmetto Bowl a couple of times and flipping from watching it as somebody who was enjoying a great game to flipping it and watching it as somebody who knows ball, I have an issue. That issue was with the way that Wes Goodwin was running the Clemson defense. Now, there are times when the elementary level thought is the right thought. There are times when complex thoughts are the correct solution. Sometimes you really got to come up with a solution to figure it out. But there are other times when the simple thought's the right thought, the Occam's razor of football. Sometimes the thought that requires the littlest amount of mental capacity, sometimes that's the right way to handle business. And I feel like Clemson's defense against South Carolina left a lot to be desired. Now, you held that team to 17 points. And if your offense is clicking, keeping a team to 17 should be enough to win you this game. It just should. There are problems with the offense, and we're going to come to those here in just a minute as well. But when I look at Clemson's defense in this game, allowing Lenoris Sellers to rush for 166 yards, I noticed something. Very rarely was there a commitment to keeping Lenoris Sellers from running the ball wherever he wanted to. Now, it got a little bit better later in the game, but at that point, Lenoris had been approaching and passing the century mark on the ground. But on that last drive, on the game-winning drive for the Gamecocks, there were a couple of plays where there was a spy on Lenoris Sellers, but more often than not, Wes Goodwin was dropping guys back in the middle of the field. It felt to me as if the game plan there was to take away the short pass from Lenoris Sellers and to say, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us down the field. The problem is that by opening the door for a quarterback to beat you down the field, sometimes it opens the door for them to beat you with the legs. This is what the Ravens for years have done with Lamar Jackson. They have Lamar, who throws a hell of a lot more than a lot of you think that they do. This is why Lamar Jackson lives for those middle of the field throws. Lives for him. Because what the objective almost always is around Lamar Jackson is we want the defense to do one of two things. Let us live across the middle of the field. That's where Zay Flowers thrives as a crossing wide receiver. That's where Mark Andrews thrives as a tight end. They thrive on getting a defense to try to take away the middle of the field. Because if you are dialed in on taking away the middle of the field, you do one of two things. Number one, you allow Lamar Jackson clean looks at wide receivers in one-on-one coverage down the field, which he's got a cannon. He's going to uncork one. Or you allow them to run guys down the field to draw that middle of the field defense into a situation of comfort, and then they go to the designed Lamar Jackson runs. It's very similar what Dowell Loggins was doing with Lenoris Sellers in this game. Kevin Jennings can do that too. Now, again, like Lamar Jackson, Kevin Jennings prefers to throw the football. SMU prefers for him to stay in the pocket and throw the football. And again, my guy weighs 180 pounds. They don't want to run him down the field unless they absolutely have to, but they will. They will. They're not going to run nearly as many designed runs for Kevin Jennings as South Carolina will for Lenora Sellers. They will run him. But Jennings is a guy that they are more often going to say, we're going to roll the pocket right. We're going to roll the coverage right. We're going to roll the protection right. We're going to roll the play to the right. And then we're going to evaluate what the defense is doing. And if the commitment from the defense is to keep the middle of the field clogged up and demand that if Kevin Jennings is going to beat you, he's going to beat you down the field. If that is the commitment from the defense, then Kevin Jennings takes off. Then he says, all right, you're not going to keep a linebacker trained on me. Okay, cool. I'll go pick up 4 or 5 and I'll slide and I'll keep my yards per carry up over that 5 mark and we'll be fine. And if you are going to keep a linebacker trained on me, great. The middle of the field is opened up and SMU is going to live in that area. The problem that I had with the way the defense was playing against Lenora Sellers was that you should have been less afraid of Lenoris uncorking a deep ball, something that, if we're keeping it a buck, he hasn't been excellent with. He's been okay, but outside of Nick Harbor doing freak athlete things down the field, he's an okay down the field passer. He's not bad, but he's not excellent. He's okay. If I was Clemson, I would have worried less about getting beat deep, and I would have worried more about getting beat by the legs of Lenora Sellers. I would have kept the middle of the field clogged with an extra guy up whose one job was to, and until you start showing me that the wide receiver can consistently beat my defensive backs, and until you start showing me that Lenora Sellers can consistently deliver him the ball, and by the way, while I have a guy whose one job is to headhunt Lenora Sellers, until you show me that he can consistently beat us that way, I'm coming after him. I hope that you figured that out. The good news here for Clemson's defensive side of the football is that what you're going to see out of Kevin Jennings is very similar to what you saw out of Lenoris. Fewer designed runs and a lot more slippery of a runner. Kevin Jennings at 189 pounds does not want to run into and through contact the way that Lenoris Sellers does. We have seen that Lenoris Sellers is more than happy when he gets, say, on the sideline, to put the head and the shoulder pads down and to battering ram his way to an extra 1.5 or 2 yards on a carry. Kevin Jennings isn't going to do that. What Kevin Jennings wants to do is make yak a category he has no yards in. He don't want yak. He don't want to get hit. He don't want contact. He don't want to have to go pick up yards after contact. He wants to avoid contact. That's why you're going to have fewer design runs, but it is also why you have got to play, and I mean this both in terms of your tactics and your execution of them, fundamentally stout defense. Fundamentally stout defense. I am talking about consistently good open field tackling. I am talking about when Jennings is approaching the line of scrimmage, break down, drop the hips, lower the center of gravity, and be ready for a directional change immediately. With Lenora Sellers, more often than not, when he gets to the outside, you know the angle he's taking. And he is going to take that angle, and he is going to try to overpower you through that angle. So you meet him, and you contact him hard, and you see who wins. Jennings is going to take an angle, and then once you commit, he's going to try to change that angle on you. He's going to try to commit you to going left, and he's going to cut back to the right. You cannot commit to Kevin Jennings and hitting him as hard as you can the way you have to with Lenoris. So the tactics are going to be very similar, assuming Wes Goodwin figured that out. Because I'll tell you, and I wasn't the only one who said that. Joey B texted me after the show. He's a Clemson guy. He had this take. My buddy Tommy's a Clemson guy. He texted me after the game. He had this take. In fact, both of those guys and others had the take that regardless of what you do with any other spots on the field, they're ready to move on from Wes Goodwin. I honestly believe that Wes Goodwin, exponentially more than Dabo Swinney, Wes Goodwin is coaching for his job this weekend. If you lose this game because Kevin Jennings pops off on you, and we all come back on Monday to talk about this game, and when we all come back on Monday to talk about this game, we all are all circling a lack of defensive tactics that make sense, a lack of defensive tactics that work, then at that point, I think you'd have to make a shift. At that point, you'd have to make a change. I think that's where you are with this. So, the way Clemson wins this game on the defensive side of the football to me is going to be anticipate you are going to see a lot of the same you saw last week out of South Carolina, but with a more agile quarterback, with a quarterback who's going to rely a lot more on cutting with the football than Lenora Sellers did. With a quarterback who is going to run, not as much, but when he does, it's going to be less about yak and more about making you make mistakes in your defensive execution and then taking advantage of those. The game plan is going to be very similar. The execution's got to be different. I am interested in seeing how it is that this Clemson defense decides that they are going to guard Kevin Jennings. Do you put a spy on him? Again, it's kind of like going back to I'm not comparing him, but it's kind of like going back to the Michael Vick days back in the day. The simple solution is what? You put a spy on Mike Vick. You have a guy whose only job, his only responsibility is to stop Michael Vick from running the football. Doesn't mean you can. He's still Michael Vick. But you have to do it. Even if it's not going great, you still have to do it. Because when you stop putting a spy on Michael Vick, when you do not have someone whose responsibility is the quarterback run, you're getting cooked. At the very least, have a guy whose job is to slow down Michael Vick so the rest of the defense can take a pursuit angle and you can try to keep him from gashing you. But when you stop doing that, this was something NFL teams did in Vick's prime. They stopped putting a spy on him. We don't have a guy that can match Michael Vick stride for stride. So instead, we're going to actually layer the middle of the field with defenders, and wherever Vick goes, take a hard pursuit angle. And that's where Vick started beating you with that cannon of an arm. Jennings has got a good arm. It's not a cannon, but he's got a good arm. But it doesn't matter. If you don't find a way to keep a guy who carried the ball 83 times this season. Again, Lenore's carried it 155 times. If you don't keep somebody from taking that availability from Kevin Jennings, saying, you know what, if you're going to beat us, it ain't going to be with your legs, fella. It's going to be with the arm. Whether it's a cannon shot or you're just chipping away in the middle of the field. If you're going to beat us, you're going to do it with your arm, not your legs. He'll beat you with the legs. And again, this game is a referendum on Dabo Swinney. In my opinion, this game is a referendum on Dabo Swinney. But I think it is the same, if not a bigger referendum on Wes Goodwin, to tell you the truth. All right. There's some Clemson SMU talk for you. When we come back to open up the 8 o'clock hour, we got your audio blitz, best audio we have heard, including a couple of takes off the Ray Memorial Hotline, which has picked up business this week. We have got coming up at the 9 o'clock hour, Kevin and John from Moving the Chains to break us down on our state semis, our upper state championship games, and Chapel Fowler from the state joins us after that to preview and get his thoughts on the ACC title game as well. All of that coming up after Lonzo makes sweet, sweet audio love to your ear holes with this Sports Flash.
Ew. That's disgusting. The Detroit Tigers converted a fourth down with less than a minute to play on their way to a game-winning field goal and a 34-31 victory over Green Bay last night. Jared Goff was 32 of 41 for 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick in the win. Detroit improves 12-1 on the season. South Carolina Gamecock women's basketball team knocked off number 8 Duke last night, 81-70. The Gamecocks were led by Chloe Kitts, 21 points and 11 boards. Every South Carolina player scored, including 30 points from bench players. The Gamecocks recorded 13 takeaways and 8 blocks in the contest. Carolina Hurricanes recorded win number 17 last night with a 5-3 victory over the Colorado Avalanche, which ends a 3-game losing streak. Tune in tomorrow, 11:30, as Furman Paladins take on the Princeton Tigers. It's Furman versus Princeton right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball. The Fan, upstate.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6986. That's 800-575-6986. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Celebrate Christmas with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Experience the Lost Christmas Eve in Classic Rogers Arena. Friday at 6:13.
Okay, so got to go on break real quick, guys. Be right back. Wait for, and I'm like, fine, but you better hurry up. The Rob Brown Show. show continues, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Hour number 3, my dudes and my dudettes. Just 2 hours remaining here in the show, 2 hours remaining left in the week. If you want in, now's the time. Now's the place. I am going to tell you this right now. I am stunned, shocked a little bit about the lack of, let's say, participation in the show from Clemson fans. And I'll tell you why. And this is going to sound, and I am aware, this is going to sound as if I am stirring the pot. You have my word as a bro, which is the ultimate word that I can give you. My word is a bro. This is not me trying to stir the pot.
There's only one person who stirs a pot around here, and that's me.
Exactly. I got no need to stir the pot. Lonzo's over there like an outboard motor next to the pot. All right?
I get tired sometimes. I mean, it's like churning butter.
This is not me stirring the pot. This is genuine. When I moved here, and I think the Great One will confirm this, is the perception of many around the upstate. When I got here in 2020, Clemson was still the cream of the crop in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And when I got here, even when the show was brand new in its original time slot of noon to 3, daytime, work day, even when I was in that slot, Clemson fans were a big part of the show. You guys were in. You guys were calling. You guys were texting. You guys were letting everybody know how it's your world and we're all just living in it. And I got told by a number of people, some in the building, some out of it, that just hang on, Rob, because when the Clemson fans are not winning anymore, they'll disappear. Watch. When I got here, I pointed out that there were 2 teams in the market that everywhere I went, I saw their logo. One of them was the Greenville Triumph, and one of them was the Clemson Tigers. In fact, when I got here, I said on the air at one point, from a new guy's perspective, somebody that had literally never been in the upstate of South Carolina until I came up here to audition for the job, had never spent time here until I literally moved here and started my job the next day. It was very obvious to me at the time that the upstate of South Carolina was Clemson Tiger territory. Like, it was very clear. But I got told, just hang out. When they have a bad season, all of that will disappear. Now, I'm not going to make a statement on whether that part is true or not. What I'm going to say is, over the past 2 years where this has been going on, to me, you guys have gotten quiet. The show is active. The show is active. The show, I say the text line number 71307, start your text with FAN, FAN. I say the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas Fan phone number 844-326-3663. We have set up the Ray Memorial Hotline. I'm active on every social media platform. Like, you have my email address, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. I have given you every single way to get in touch with the show. And as expected, South Carolina fans have gotten dramatically more involved with the program over the past 3 months. But Clemson fans have largely disappeared. You are set to play for an Atlantic Coast Conference championship game literally tomorrow night. I would have thought, and maybe incorrectly, but I would have thought this would have been one of the most active days of the year for Clemson fans. Like, this would have been one of the most active days. This would have been one of the days of the year where we have phone calls coming in. The text line was all Clemson fans with their thoughts. I would have genuinely thought that there was a landslide of participation in the show. keep it a buck with you. There's not. I'm to the degree to the point that I'm genuinely a little bit shocked by it. Texter said, Rob, Clemson fan, we're still here. Some of us just can't call in because we're at work. Dejected, yes, but still here. And I'm not saying you're not there. I'm just saying this is a platform. And I know that what is said on this platform is heard up the road in Clemson. I know that for a fact. Because annually, when we go and participate in either ACC Media Days or Clemson Media Open House, or we go down and cover games live and in person, I'll be at the ACC title game tomorrow night in Charlotte. Every time that I go and I have a conversation with Ross or James or any of the guys that are in the Clemson athletic department, specifically in their sports information department, every time I have conversations with those guys, something comes up about a topic that was on the show. From them, not from me, from them. Right? Like almost every time. I would say every time. Comfortably say every time. What's said here resonates there. We may not have the biggest stick in the Clemson game, but what is said here resonates there. And I would think that there is an opportunity right now with you guys playing for a conference title game tomorrow to say, hey, everything's great. We're very happy with what's going on. Or we have to win tomorrow. If we don't win tomorrow and we're a 4-loss ACC team, that's not good enough. Or I hope that Dabo is going to evaluate. Or Wes Goodwin ain't the guy. Or whatever. Because it gets heard. I just thought today would be one of the most participated in shows for you guys of the year. And respectfully, it's just not. Here's what I've got so far. Here's the text I've got so far. Tiger Pal Rachel, I'm still here, Rob. Tigers take the chip. I know, Rachel, you are P1 in the Armada. We need a title for P1. That's not good enough. We need like captain in the Armada. We need like a title, all right? Because, Rachel, you're one of them.
Are there captains in
Yes. You are captains of a ship in the Armada. The person in charge of the Armada, me, Commodore. I've referred to myself as Commodore before. Commodore oversees an Armada, captain sails under the Commodore, but does command a ship.
So not Rear Admiral.
Correct.
Okay.
Rear Admiral would be in charge of the Navy as a whole, which oversees. That would be the man down the hall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The Rear Admiral works
fine.
on that side. The Admiral works under us. The Rear Admiral down the hall. I'm the Commodore. You are. I don't know what a Commodore's first name is.
I'm just a bosun, and
Quartermaster Zoe.
I'm definitely not that. I'm just an observer.
Whatever the highest rank of P1 is.
I'm more of an Air Force guy. Can I say? I mean, you know.
In the Navy, you can sail the 7 seas. Rachel, we know you're there. We know you're there. You're P1. Texas said, Rob, it's my personal belief that the Tigers are enjoying a platter of what Gamecock fans have been eating on over the last 5 decades. So it's hard to be excited about getting on board. That's fair. That's fair. Texas said, here's some of the other texts. Every time you said Kevin Jennings, I thought about the Jeopardy host running down the field.
Thank you. It was killing me because I'm like, how is he not? Okay.
I love Kevin. I'm a big Jeopardy guy.
Okay.
Big Jeopardy guy.
Because every time I'm just over here going, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
Texter said my fellow Clemsoners were not happy when Oklahoma beat Alabama and Brent Venables kept his job. Brent Venables was already keeping his job. Oklahoma's on for one more year of Brent Venables, but the Alabama thing sealed it. I think he was already keeping the job. They were going to give him one more year to try to turn that thing around, but you are correct. Texter said, Rob, I'm not arguing with you. I understand your point. I think Dabo is using NIL money more to recruit new players from high school rather than use money to recruit transfer portal players. I don't disagree. I do want to be very clear. I am not on board with the Dabo's anti-NIL. I think it's not that I think he's come around on it. I still think he actually hates it. I just think he's come to the realization he can't actively speak out against it. He does have to accept it because guys in Clemson are making NIL dollars now. I think he's got to, and especially when one of the first NIL contracts of note was what? DJ Uiagalelei a couple of years ago, getting that fat stacks from Dr. Pepper to go be a resident of Fansville.
Yeah, and then he moved away really quick. It was weird. He was only there for a year.
He was renting an apartment in Fansville. Let's be very clear. Yeah, he was renting in Fansville. But I don't think Dabo could have DJ making, a few $1 million in Dr. Pepper money, but then also be like, NIL's dumb and players shouldn't get paid. I don't think he's like in favor of it now. But you'll also notice that you've got other coaches who go and they do coaches shows and whatnot, and they're begging for NIL money. Who is it? Kenny Dillingham. The other day, after one of their big wins, got on the mic and he said, it was one of my favorite takes of the year. I think it was brilliant. He got on a mic in a post-game presser after they pulled off a big upset. And he said, look, we know what we're capable of. And we know we're on the way. If you made money on us, because I told you preseason, bet the over. On the win total, bet the over. He said, if you made money on us, donate some of that to our NIL collective. Put some of that money in the kitty so that we can go give it to players. Put some of that money in the pot in the collectives so that we can go get players, right? He is actively engaging and challenging fans to give. Shane Beamer's done it with the Garnet Collective. He shows up and does, interviews with them and whatnot. And he's got his players going out and doing that. I don't see that out of Dabo. I don't think he likes it. I just think he realized, I'd probably succeed without the portal. Can't succeed without NIL. But I get what you're saying, and I don't think you're wrong. Texter said, the handwriting for Dabo is already on the wall. Worst early signing day since he became head coach. That's an undeniable sign that the culture of Dabo is crumbling. This is true. I looked at it. It's early signing day. There's still a lot of time between now and February, but Clemson's recruiting class was ranked 26th in the country this year. You know who was 25? Florida State University.
Recruiting classes go down when you have a very young team. Don't they have a very young team?
They do have a very young team. It does not mean that the recruiting class ranking goes down. You may bring in fewer players.
That's what I mean. You're bringing in fewer players.
If you only bring in 9 players, but there's like a bunch of, 4 stars and maybe a 5-star in there, you're still going to have a high ranking because it's as much quality as quantity. Now, here is something interesting that I noticed yesterday. Of the entire, depending on what composite you look at, but of the composite 5-star guys, Lonzo, do you know how many landed in the Big 12 this year? Take a stab at it.
No, because signing day doesn't mean what it used to mean. So
early signing day, but there were still a bunch of 5-stars that signed.
Okay, 25.
0.
Okay.
How many 5-stars landed in the Pac-2?
0.
How many 5-stars landed at any group of 5 school? 0. How many 5-stars landed in the ACC? 0. How many 5-stars landed in the SEC or the Big Ten? All of them. So there's something that is very interesting there. Let's see. Texter said, Rob, how do you shut up a bully? Punch them in the mouth. And Clemson and their fans got punched straight in the mouth. Go Gamecocks. Yeah.
Going to be a beautiful year. Especially if they bow out. It's going to be nice and quiet. That's the thing that I care about.
So that was, and again, I guess that's what I'm kind of asking the question about here is that belief true? Is that belief accurate? That, Clemson's had a couple of years that were down years.
I've lived here over half my life now, and I could say, at least for me, and for a bunch of people that I know, there's always a relief, and it's been a while, but there's always a relief when South Carolina beats Clemson, because then those people, not all Clemson, there are a lot of really good Clemson folks that are fans, but the other ones are just so much louder than them.
We'll find out. Again, I assume that today was going to be a long participated in day by the Clemson fans. You're playing for a conference title tomorrow, and it's just like it's barely anything.
It's a long, arduous journey to Charlotte, and so they're packing up bags and everything, finding their hotels, all that kind of stuff. And taking that long trip up to Charlotte. So they're not in the area right now.
Maybe that's it. Maybe. Again, I'm going to be there. I will 100% give you credit. If I get up there tomorrow, I'll be in the press box. If I get up there tomorrow, and as I assume it will be, If I get up there tomorrow and it is 80% Clemson fans, then I'm going to give you all the credit
Is
in
there
the
any
world.
doubt in your mind? I mean, it has nothing to do with proximity, although that
it absolutely does.
No, that helps. Clemson fans travel well, and this is a big game. They're going to show up. I don't doubt that for a second.
We'll see. All right, before we go to our break, we will do the audio blitz coming up here in the next segment because I got a little off base, but I had to get about it. Somebody that is calling in to talk about Clemson, Tyler, on the phone line to talk. This isn't the legendary Tyler from Spartanburg. This is going to be our own better, superior Tyler. Correct, Tyler?
Yeah, Tyler from Easley, not Tyler from
Hell yeah. Welcome to the show, Tyler from Easley. You have an opportunity here to take back the name Tyler from the meme that it has become. Tyler, the show's on you, bud.
Hey, no, I'm not defending Dabo here. I think we all agree he's got to embrace the portal, to fill some gaps on some of the position groups we have. But want to put into perspective the number 33 ranking of the recruiting class right now. So, every program has 80 scholarships. It's the same across the board. Our recruiting class this year is a little bit lower because we have, we retain more players than most programs. That being said, people are kind of up in arms about the fact that we haven't landed any 4- and 5-star recruits, but I want to read you some names real quick. So 2016 to 2018, Kayvon Wallace, Isaiah Simmons, Reeves, Slasky Chalk, a couple more here, Travis Etienne, Logan Rudolph, and Balin Spector. There's 4 first-rounders in there. You know what they were all? 3 stars.
Sure.
Right. And so back in the day, I think we had coaches that could develop players more so than we're able to do now. I think our receiving core plateaus at the end of their sophomore year. You don't really see production increases. There's junior and senior year. Hopefully that changes. But I think we need to take, and I want to hear your take on this, but I always take the 3- and 4-star rankings or ratings with a little bit of a grain of salt, because you've seen dudes come in as 3 stars that are absolutely dogs. So, I implore Clemson fans take the 33 ranking with a grain of salt, given that we have less turnover on the roster. So that means less players coming in, which affects the rating. That's what I got. I'll hang up and listen.
Tyler, appreciate it, big dog. Thanks for checking in. I think there's a couple of things that you have to discuss here. I think one of them is something that is talked about all the time. I know that this was one of Mark Ryan's favorite things to talk about, and that's the blue chip ratio. Like if you go look at teams that make the playoffs, most of them surpass the blue chip ratio more often than they don't, right? Or at least are right in that realm. To say that, you can build a championship team out of a bunch of 3 stars. No, you can't. You can't, all right? I'm not a recruiting guy, just so we're clear. I don't lose my mind over stars. I don't. I'd rather just look and see what I got in a kid. But I also do understand that a lot of guys put a lot of eyes on a lot of kids to come up with these rankings. There's some benefit. A lot of 5 stars crash out. A lot of 3 stars become stars. Ain't no doubt about it. But to say that not having 4 and 5 stars is irrelevant to success, that's just fundamentally empirically untrue. And I do think there is some element to that being a criticism. We can talk more about this as the show rolls on. I want to get to the audio blitz. We'll talk more about those recruitings and the impact from what we saw yesterday. All of that coming up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Lights.
All right, guys, quick break. We're back right after this. Stay right there. is up, friends? It's Rob Brown. I hope you're enjoying the show. If you're not, I don't know why you're here, but I am glad that you are. Hey, do us a favor. Whether you're enjoying it or not, would you mind sharing us around your social media, please? And thank you, Twitter, X, whatever you call it. I don't care. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, it doesn't matter to me. Help us get the good word out. We're trying to get famous and rich, and we can't do it without your help. So, The Rob Brown Show is on all social media, or share the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, wherever you're watching this, and we'd appreciate it very much. Now, let's get back to the show. Stick around. A power button.
Yeah, it's not working. Do this thing.
What if it stayed on?
There we go. I just don't. No, I have a problem with that. That's why I unplugged it. We've had a couple instances like that where things had batteries on them. One was a Buzz Lightyear. One of them was a talking baby doll, where the batteries were removed and they still talked. I took that Buzz Lightyear out in the yard and buried it, by the way. It's not a joke, not an exaggeration. That freaked me out. And it was distorted, so it wasn't like the full-on Tim Allen thing, and it was like, I'd be asleep and you'd hear that, like, oh God, I took the batteries. Why is that thing still talking? And it's like, okay, let me get it away from Cameron and make it disappear.
I subscribe to a sports media newsletter that comes out every morning. And one of their headlines is, good for Stephen A. Smith, but will ESPN eventually regret this decision? And the byline from whoever wrote it by the name of Dave Green is, I don't think it would be the first person to say that while supremely talented, Stephen A.'s BS meter runs a smidge higher than most.
Does that mean he notices that particular thing,
No,
or he spews that particular? Okay. Sponsored by your mom. Cannot wait.
Okay, we've spent a lot of time talking about it. It's time for our predictions for the 9 conference championship games. And for the last few weeks, we have had 2 Tolos in particular going at
Lonzo Ball blamed his dad's Big Baller brand shoes on all his blamed them for all his ankle injuries.
Has he sued him yet?
I haven't seen that dude in a long time. Which good. I'm glad.
If that lawsuit happens, hopefully it's televised.
Tell you what, I'm going to push the audio blitz one more segment. We'll do it in the next segment because we got a short one here. So I want to keep going with the conversation that we were having just a few moments ago. Thanks to Tyler from Easley from calling in and giving us some thoughts there. We were talking a little bit about the concept of the blue chip ratio. That is the number of players in your recruiting class considered blue chippers. The blue chip ratio is something that a lot of people pay attention to. The blue chip ratio is the percentage of your football team's recruits that are considered largely 4- and 5-star players. Because Tyler said, look how many guys we got staying around. These are players that are being developed. They're being developed in one system. You know, I'm not super worried about it. Last year's recruiting class, Alonzo. I'm going to read you, starting with number 10 and moving up, the blue chip ratio for the college football programs that had the 10 highest blue chip ratio percentages in last year's class. Now, this is last year, which means that you're going to have a bunch of guys that are going to come in and they may not make a massive impact right out of the gate. They got to develop, but I do think it's very interesting. Here they are. Number 10, Clemson, 64%. Teams playing for a title, playing for a conference championship this weekend. Number 9, Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a playoff team this year, probably the 5 seed. Number 8, LSU. LSU had a disappointing year and are already discussing the termination of Brian Kelly because it's not going great. And not only is it not going great, but they had a disappointing year this year, and they will be outside of the top 10 in blue chip ratio next year, despite the fact that they had a couple of huge pickups on early signing day. They also lost a lot of guys. Number 7, Texas, 72% blue chip ratio last football season. Texas is playing for an SEC title this year. Number 6, Oklahoma. This is kind of the anomaly here, but also let's keep in mind, we're going into Brent Venables' 3rd year as the head coach of Oklahoma. This is considered the year that you get a read next year, considered the year that you get a read on whether Brent Venables is the guy or not. But there's a lot of Sooner fans that are talking about maybe Brent Venables isn't the guy we thought he was going to be. Number 5, Oregon, 76%. Oregon playing for a Big Ten title tomorrow, already a guaranteed playoff game, may go into the playoffs as the number 1 seed. Number 4, Texas A&M. Maybe not the year you thought they were going to have. I mean, they were exactly the year I thought they were going to have, but let's also keep in mind, Texas A&M, first-year head coach in Mike Elko. And remember, had Texas A&M knocked off the Longhorns last weekend, we'd be talking about Texas A&M playing in the SEC championship game tomorrow night, right there on the door. Number 3, Georgia, playing for an SEC championship game. Number 2, Alabama, 88% blue chip ratio. While you may not agree with it, Alabama is, if they're not a playoff team, they are the first team out. And number 1 with a 90% blue chip ratio, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Here's Ohio State, not playing for a Big Ten title game tomorrow. Coulda, shoulda, woulda been. Probably should have been if they didn't lose to Michigan. And where is Ohio State? If you notice, the teams on this list of the top 10 blue chip ratio squads, the teams that were on this list, by the way, just for the funsies, number 15, Michigan, 56%. Down year, down blue chip ratio. Number 14, USC, 59%. Down year, down blue chip ratio. And also, I think maybe USC missed the boat with Lincoln Riley. Number 13, Penn State, playing for a Big Ten championship game. Number 12, Miami, 61%. One upset away from an ACC title game. Number 11, Florida, 63%. Florida, I'm going to tell you right now, doing it under the radar. Florida playing some of the best football of any conference, Power 4 conference team for the last 3 weeks of the season. Upset Lane Kiffin's Rebels. Beat the tar out of Florida State on their field. Planted the spear, planted the flag. The point here is, if you look inside the top 10, the teams that are inside the top 10 but did not perform this year are all teams where questions are being raised about the head coach. Dabo Swinney at Clemson, Brian Kelly at LSU, Brent Venables at Oklahoma, Ryan Day at Ohio State. This is a team that is going to the playoffs, and yet their fan base is calling for the termination of the head coach. So there are, of the top 10, there are roughly, what do we got? 6 teams that are in the playoffs, 4 teams that are just outside. One of them is a team with a first-year head coach that was playing for a ticket to their conference championship game and a playoff spot in Texas A&M. One of them is Oklahoma, that Brent Venables is in his 3rd year, or going into his 3rd year, but is being discussed as, is he the right guy? And LSU was looking at firing Brian Kelly. And then Clemson, who, again, could win the ACC title game tomorrow and go to the playoffs. But Clemson fans, respectfully, don't bury your head in the sand. There are questions being asked about long-term viability of the coaching tenure of Dabo Swinney. So I get what Tyler from Easley is saying. I get what he's saying. And I'm not saying he's wrong for feeling that way, but I do think respectfully, that's a very silver lining way to look at this, right? That's a very, and we're fans. We're fans. You're going to lean on optimism. You never want to. Sometimes you have to. You never want to look at your program and go, we're failing. We are trending down right now, right? Go look at any Florida State message board. Oh, if you're a Florida State fan, it's a sad day. If you're anybody else, it's hilarious to watch the meltdown, right? Nobody wants to go at our team. Our team's trending down. But people are outside of your program, and many of you in the program, asking questions. The point that I'm making here, Tyler, is not that you are wrong. It's that you are, I think, taking the most optimistic outlook at the numbers from yesterday. The reality is, when you look at the blue chip ratio, 4 and 5 stars as a percentage of your overall recruiting class, and you go look at the top 10, 6 are playoff teams. Of the other 4, 1 just missed the playoffs with a first-year head coach, and the other 3 are asking questions about their head coach. It is a ratio we pay attention to for a number. And Clemson, their early national signing day period is a 0% blue chip ratio. You cannot tell me that actually that's a good thing, because I'm giving you the empirical evidence that it's not. Having a blue chip ratio that is above 50% doesn't guarantee you a damn thing. But the higher you are towards the top of that ratio, the more it's reflected on the football field. That is empirically true. All right, Audio Blitz. When we come back, best audio we have found, including a couple of messages off of the Ray Memorial Hotline. If you want your voice on the radio, go to the Odyssey app, the Fan Upstate page, click on the circle button with the microphone in it, drop us that 30 to 60-second voice note, and if you do it during this break, you might be on the Audio Blitz in the next segment of the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Freaking mouse, man. Does the SCHSL need to allow NIL money to keep up with other states in the region? I mean, as other states start to allow NIL for high school players, and considering high school players are with certain regulations allowed to move around now, I'm gonna say the answer is I don't know, man. Like, I almost kind of feel like you have to. I am also gonna say, like, is there any? There are obviously child labor laws, but there's no other job. Scratch that. There's no other course or activity in high school that says you can't do that, right? It's just these kids are taking advantage of what we as Americans prioritize, right? If we were to wake up tomorrow and find out that, say, our passion as a country for football had been replaced by a passion for musical theater, right? We wake up tomorrow and all of us find that we now love musical theater as much as we love college football and NFL football. Is there anything that says a kid who is a thespian at their local high school can't go out and get money? No, and there never has been. It's just that that's not something that we as Americans prioritize enough that businesses say, I'd like to invest in that. I would like to attach my name. So I've never had an issue with football players or anyone else having the opportunity to go out and make money on the side off their name. Again, the industry that I'm in, I agree, for instance, with the radio station. I agree with them. I agree to an agreement with them that I will not do that, not through the radio station, right? Like I'm not going to go out on my own and endorse stuff. If I want to endorse something and someone wants to pay me to endorse them, I have to work it out through the radio station. But if I was a plumber and there was a deep passion for plumbing and some company wanted to come to me and pay me as Rob Brown to endorse their product because people are big plumbing fans around here, then I absolutely think I should have the right to accept that side hustle of promoting a product on their behalf. Effectively, it's influencer culture is what it is. So should the high school league take advantage of that? I mean, if you don't, you will eventually start seeing high school talent leave the state. You will start seeing the best players go up to North Carolina or over to Georgia, wherever it is that they can make that NIL money.
I was a fan of a son of a plumber.
Son of a plumber. That the rose. The audio blitz is the is the best audio, including voice notes, that we have heard over the past day or so since last we checked in with all of you. It is messages you've sent us on the Ray Memorial Hotline. It is audio we've picked up from the sports world and outside of it. And we jump into it now. Lonzo, I'm going to start with this one. I've been carrying this one all week. Today is the day. Kirk Cousins played real bad this past weekend. Like by every metric, he was bad. Bad enough that as somebody who has watched over that game, I think Kirk Cousins is the direct reason the Falcons lost this weekend. Now, wins and losses, they're not a quarterback stat. But I do think there can be a game where a quarterback can play well enough to win the game for his team and bad enough to lose the game for his team. I think Kirk Cousins played poorly enough to lose the game for his team. I am not the only one who feels that way. Bill Simmons on the Ringer pod got into a conversation. He said this.
I think they should start Penix next week. Kirk Cousins, 0 TDs, 4 picks, including a pick 6. He was one away from the full Delhomme. He is now our interception leader at 13.
Yeah.
And he can't move.
But out of all the terrible quarterback metrics you just read, the one that you didn't was one that was like kind of just invented. The next
that
gen
miles
stat,
per hour one?
The miles per hour. Kirk Cousins must be like, what the f-? There's another thing now that he did not throw over 36 miles an hour in a minimum 20 attempts. No one's ever done that in a freaking dome. Like no one's ever done that before.
He was so bad in that game. Honestly, they had no business losing that game, and he single-handedly lost the game. If you put Penix on the team that we've been watching the last couple of weeks and he's moving around, like I actually think they'd have a better chance to win. They're 6-6. They still, because they beat Tampa twice, they still have the division in their destiny. And there's no way you can think Cousins is going to turn this around at this point. Why not play Penix?
I completely agree with that take. I think you make the switch now. The game plan was you let Kirko run the program for for a season, at least maybe 2, and you allow Michael Penix a chance to do 2 things. Number 1, get that knee as close to 100% as it is going to possibly get back to. And number 2, much like you did with Bryce Young in Carolina, give him some time to ride the pine and learn how the NFL works. And I'm not just talking about the game. I'm talking about all the other aspects of being an NFL quarterback. I'm talking about prep time and practice time and meetings and travel and women and all these other elements that come into being an NFL starting quarterback. Well, you've given the man 12 games and 13 weeks sitting on the pine, and Kirk Cousins is playing bad football right now. Now, maybe it's because he's aged. You know, I was worried about him being a 40-year-old quarterback when he came in, and I got a lot of flack for hating on a grandpa, hating on an old man, but you can see it now. He is slow. He has no zip on the football, even when he needs to. There's just nothing over the past, really 3 weeks, but especially this past weekend going right. I would make the switch to Kirk Cousins this weekend.
Yeah, if you make that switch, that means you're saying you're done with him. You don't bench him if you plan on keeping Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
If this was only a one-season thing, you do it. If not, then you let him keep playing.
Nah, I'm done. I'd be done. What is there on the metric right now that says he's got a turnaround in him? Right? I don't see one. I told you coming in, my biggest concern was that Kirk Cousins was covered up in Minnesota by having maybe the best assembly of pass-catching talent in the National Football League, and that when he got to Atlanta, it wasn't going to go great. They're 500. There's still a door open to be divisional champs. No door to the wild card in the NFC. If you want a shot, I think you have to make the switch now.
I don't care how good you are in the NFC South. When you get there, you're suddenly going to be mediocre because no one wants to win this division. No one's really wanted to win it in a long, long time. Everybody wants to be like hovering around 500. That's all they want to do.
Here's the thing. You're a 500 ball club with Kirk Cousins. You don't know that you're not better with Michael Penix. And if you lose the division, you lose the division. You're not a Super Bowl team. We all know that. So make the switch now and see what happens. Now, one more Kirko sound. Kirk was on a podcast earlier this week, one of the Barstool podcasts, and he was asked, what do you want to do at the end of your career? And once again, as much as I criticize Kirk on the field, I'm a big Kirk Cousins guy off. I'm a big Kirko guy away from the squad. Here's what Kirk said he's interested in doing when his career wraps up.
My dream is, or not my dream, but like a retirement goal is to be like a background person in like a local musical in my hometown and have like, the people come to the show and be like, is that Cousins in the back there doing a box step? I was like, yeah, that's me. So on my many list of things to do in retirement, it'll be have a small role in a local musical.
I love that.
Yeah, it's great. You should get one in Wicked too, though. Like I feel like there's
I'm
somebody
all for it.
out there.
I feel like your guys' platform is a great springboard to make this happen.
Yeah, we can get this done.
You want to get like the average dude football fan to go see Wicked 2, put Kirk Cousins in the back of it.
Subscribe. I get it. Me and Chris Evans, Captain America down the hall. We both have a background in acting. I mean, I was in one play in high school. I'm like,
I was going to say, this is the first I've heard of your acting background.
Yeah,
so
I was in a play in high school.
Okay, yeah.
And I was damn good at it.
I was in a bunch of church plays. That doesn't mean that I'm a good actor.
I was a great actor. I was the comedic relief too. I was in a stage adaptation, a high school stage adaptation of The Importance of Being Earnest. And I played the butler, who in the play doesn't really do anything except facilitate movement of things on the page. But I decided for comedic effect that I was going to be like a Chris Farley butler in the background. And the director hated it. But what I did was I came out and I put sweet tea in a flask and I was drinking from a flask. And every time the actors would turn their head, I would take a sip. And the premise of one of the scenes is the two characters are having breakfast. And so for the stage adaptation, they just put a big mound of blueberry muffins on the table between these actors. Actually, the guy playing the main role is the lead singer in my band now, Teddy. And so I decided that just to see if I could get away with it on the night we debuted this thing, they put the big mound of muffins between them. And every time that the two of them would talk to each other or face the audience, I would see how many muffins I could shove into my mouth without breaking character. And by the time they turned around for the last scene, which was supposed to be that they both picked up a muffin and took a bite while they were having this reflective moment, they turned around and I'd eaten 36 mini muffins off this mound. I'm a comedic genius is what it comes down to. So I get it, Kirko. I really do.
No, you saw free food and you went for it.
Judge. Last night, Thursday Night Football. I don't want to talk about the game. I want to talk about one of the most iconic intros to a TNF game I have ever heard, Lonzo.
Eliminate the Packers' chances in this division race.
For the touchdown!
Meanwhile, the Vikings are lurking in the shadows, waiting for their final shot at these two bitter rivals. My God, this is going to be one hell of a slobber knocker.
By God, that's Jim Ross's music.
I don't know, man. It's kind of sad because he's lost so much, and it hurts my feelings more than it makes me feel nostalgic.
First off, me and Jim Ross were friends. We shook hands at an AEW event one time. All right, so we're buddies. I got a picture with Jim Ross. Good dude. I was on TV with Jim Ross. Was it a lingering handshake?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Because it was at a show last year, and the folks down the hallway that are the wrestling guys who get all the good access tickets, they couldn't go. So they gave me their tickets, and I was literally sitting on the rail by the announce team. I was on TV all night. You could hear me and Joby screaming throughout the show.
No, we remember to the point where they were trying to avoid showing.
Yep. Not ashamed. Me and JR, we're buddies now. Give Jim Ross every intro to every football game ever. But tell him only if he does it like it's a WrestleMania main event. By God, that's Jared Goff's music.
I don't think he has that in him anymore. I don't. I mean, I think he's reached an age where he can't do that anymore.
Let's do a couple. Let's do a college football clip. There is a web show, I guess, called The Program. It's kind of like Hard Knocks for college, and they do little snippets from different programs getting ready for different games or whatever. One of them was Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. Dan Lanning and the Ducks were heading to take on the Whiskey Badgers not terribly long ago. Well, you know all. Camp Randall in Wisconsin, they play Jump Around. And it's like their hype song, right? And Dan Lanning had a very interesting strategy on how to get the boys ready.
Response from you, right? And they're right. Anybody familiar with Pavlov's dog?
Every time you ring the bell, the dog salivated because the dog associated the bell with the food. And we know from a dopaminergic perspective, the dopamine was released into the dog's brain, and the dog's like, I want food now.
In this game and throughout this week, you're going to hear this song. It's going to release dopamine in your mind. It's going to tell you that you're hungry to go eat. And whenever we hear this, I want our temperature to change. I want the temperature of the room to change, right? When we hear it at practice, I want you to say to yourself, it's about to get serious. When that song comes on, whether it's in practice, I want you to reset your mind for what you're about to do. I want you to start jumping around. I want you guys to enjoy the moment. When it shows up, take advantage of it. Turn that switch in your mind.
Now, what was really cool about this clip, and I'll post it in my social media coming up here in just a minute from now. What was very cool was that the next clip transitioned to the actual game. And you can see there's a camera next to the duck huddle, and that song keeps playing, and you can see them all, and you can hear them talking to each other, and they're like, here it goes. Let's go. Here it goes. And that song starts. And there is this great clip, Lonzo, from a camera from the other side of the field with 2 or 3 Badgers players. And they're all kind of like, you can see them kind of getting ready to get geared up to get hype. And through their helmets, you can see the Ducks on the other side. And they are losing their minds. They are going off. They are jumping hype. They are slapping helmets, headbutting, whatever, going bananas. And you can see all 3 Wisconsin players like turn and look and then like turn their bodies staring at them like, yo, what are they doing? It's incredible. I watched this and not a joke. I watched that and immediately went, when I get to Charlotte, because I'm going up there in the daytime tomorrow, when I get to Charlotte, slamming a bet on the Ducks to beat the hell out of Penn State because Dan Lanning gets it.
Listen, it's a great move, but you can only do it for certain songs. You can do that for that song. You do it for Inner Sandman. You can never, ever do it for the lamest song ever, Mr. Brightside.
Down. I went out of my head and I'll be doing just fine. Gotta be.
The whole time you're going to be thinking, why am I watching them? My girlfriend's messing around. I just don't.
It was only
I'm no longer motivated to play football. I'm hurt.
I mean, if you don't
I
get
just
it,
want to go to the sideline and get a hug.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. Hey, Vikings running back Aaron Jones.
You know who didn't get it? He didn't, but he's watching some other guy get it.
We've already broken it down. We're not doing it again. You refuse to accept the brilliance behind the song. Vikings running back Aaron Jones is struggling with the fumbles right now. Got a case of the fumbles, had 2 or 3 of them in the last couple of weeks. How are you working on getting better at holding on to the football, Aaron?
Things you've been doing, like walking throughout the house with the ball. Hold my kids like a football. I mean, football ain't that heavy, so I'm like, if I can hold them and not drop them, I should be good. So, no, just really holding them both hands like this and getting some practice until my arms get tired.
Kids are all right, though, right? I mean, the kids are good.
I mean, so far, so good.
We know the kids are okay.
So far, so good. Don't appear to have too much of a problem. I mean, I got to tell you, it's a good way to do it, right? Good way to do it. Good way to do it. Grab that kid, 2 hands. 5 points of contact, right? You've heard the 5 points of contact. You got 1 with the fingers, 1 with the wrist, 1 with the elbow, 1 with the shoulder, 5 points of contact. Wrap that thing in tight. Also do that with your 2-year-old. Because if you don't fumble the 2-year-old, you can't fumble the football. Now, my question is, are you committed enough to that, Aaron, that while you are walking around the house hanging on to your kid with the 5 points of contact tucked close to the body, are you having your wife slap you in the arms trying to make you drop? Because if you're not committed to the bit, all right? If you don't have your wife randomly shoulder checking into you, then you're not really getting any better. You're just holding your kid. Aaron, commit to the bit. Have your wife just occasionally tackle you into the couch and make sure you protect little Johnny so that he's good. And if he's good, the ball's going to be good.
We at The Fan and Odyssey do not condone child endangerment. That's just a Rob thing.
Are you committed to hanging on to the football or not? Because if you're committed to hanging on to the football,
dude, stop.
If you're committed to hanging on to the football, then You let your wife blitz the A gap and maybe chuck you into the wall. And again, if that kid's fine, A, you're a good dad, and B, you're a good ball carrier. And if that kid's not fine, it's your fault, Aaron. Ball security has got to be your primary priority. If you're not working every day at being a better, more secure, confident ball carrier to the point that you're willing to put your kids on the line, then you're not committed to the gig.
You, sir, are evil.
We'll find somebody else who'll do it, right?
Evil. Stop.
Aaron, we will find somebody else who'll do it. Hey, when we come back here in a minute, Kevin and John from the Moving the Chains app join us. They will give you a rundown.
They may go, I'm not coming on that show after what I just heard.
They're going to agree. They're big
they're
guys.
They're not going to agree.
They're big
to
no
that.
ball guys. All right.
Okay.
And also, neither of them has a kid.
Well,
so they're
that is
big
true.
no ball guys.
As far
all
as we
right?
know. I mean,
Listen, do you want to run it back with ball security, or do you want some guy who's half-assed, who's treating it like it's gentle?
Yeah, I'm trying to distance myself from.
Hang on to the ball. Hang on to the ball, Aaron. Hang on to the ball. Hang on to your butts while Alonzo does his sports flash.
Yeah, just don't. No children involved.
Do you want a good back or not?
Yeah. Okay. Please leave the room. I'm worried. The Detroit Lions converted a fourth down with less than a minute to play. No children involved. On their way to a game-winning field goal and a 34-31 victory over Green Bay last night. Jared Goff was 32 of 41, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick in the win. Detroit improves to 12-1 on the season. The South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball team knocked off number 8 Duke last night, 81-70. The Gamecocks were led by Chloe Kitts, 21 points and 11 boards. Every South Carolina player scored, including 30 points from bench players. The Gamecocks recorded 13 takeaways and 8 blocks in the contest. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 11:30 as the Furman Paladins take on the Princeton Tigers. It's Furman versus Princeton right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball. The Fan, Upstate. No, this does not need to ever be a thing. Ever. Not a thing.
Stuff from the sports world and outside of it, and we jump into it now.
We're almost to the point where we're going to have to put a warning label on this show. I don't want to do that. I mean,
Why? Because I promote ball security across the landscape of college football and professional football. I'm all about ball security.
You're welcome, Wesley. We're the gift that keeps on giving. you send him the thing? You're welcome.
Good call. Good call. Alarm.
Let's dance.
The fourth, the final, the money hour.
You stay classy.
Of the Rob Brown Show, the final hour of the week goes now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Great to have you here on the Fan Upstate. Robin the Great One Lonzo with you.
I just thought about it. There may be someone in their car. There are a bunch of people in the car listening to the show right now approaching train tracks, and that might scare them half to death. Admittedly, this morning, I have to go across train tracks, and there's no sign, there's no nothing there. You're just going across train tracks, and I saw what I thought was a headlight, and it was a train. So I can't imagine what it would have felt like when I was going across the tracks if I would have heard the train sound.
I mean, what it would have said to me is, oh, somebody just sent Rob Brown a great text on the show. Somebody obviously just sent a text that I should be paying attention to. I think that's what it would say to me. But I'm much like I am with football, ball security. And playing to the bit. Playing to the bit. Make sure you know what's important, which is the security of the product.
Can we please not go back to the last? Can we go forward? We're a forward thinking kind of place. Let's just move forward.
I am thinking forward. I'm thinking forward to no more fumbles for Aaron Jones. That's what I'm thinking forward to. I'm committed to making sure my running backs are all in for ball security. We're joined on the show now from the Moving the Chains pod by our guy, John Epps. John, before we talk a little high school football here, buddy, in the last segment, we played a clip from Vikings running back Aaron Jones, who has been suffering from a little case of the dropsies the last few weeks. And a reporter said, hey, have you been doing anything to work on not fumbling away the football? And he said, yeah, I've been carrying my kids, my baby. I've been carrying my baby around like a football because if I can carry that ball and I can carry it confidently, I feel better about the ball. To which I said, you're not really committed to ball security unless you're letting your wife blitz the A gap and knock you into the wall every now and then, put the head across the shoulder, put you into the couch. If you're not doing that, you're not getting any better. Carrying a football around doesn't help you. You got to take a little contact and keep that baby secure if you want me to buy into the fact that you're about ball security. I don't think it's that outlandish of a concept, John Epps. It's all ball security or get off my field.
I agree. Unless people around the house are walking around trying to punch the baby out, which really hope that's not the case. I don't think he's doing them much of a service here.
Yeah.
Well, wow. Again, I'm distancing myself from all this talk. I am appalled. That's what I am, appalled.
I mean, again, do you think that when he approaches the line and a defensive end coming off the edge sees him trying to get an angle and that ball's right there, that defensive end is going to be punching that ball, is going to be grabbing, is going to be throwing fists trying to knock that ball off? If he's not able to confidently protect that baby in his arm from contact, then how do I trust that he's confidently protecting the football from contact? This is just basic football 101, John Epps. It's the first drill as a running back you run a practice every day is taking a hit and hanging on.
High and tight.
High and tight, man. 5 points of contact. Tuck that thing away. Keep it safe and secure.
What is wrong with you people?
That ball should be as precious as your baby.
Remember how Mike Allstott carried the football? Do it like that if you got to.
Mike Allstott would run through a wall while holding his baby, and I think he would do that in real life.
He could cradle all of us and still win.
Yeah, already has.
John Epps is here from the Moving the Chains podcast. You can find their work on their website at movingchains.com. No G in that one, movingchains.com. It is the same handle on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever major podcasts are found. If you're a high school football fan in the great state of South Carolina, the Moving the Chains pod has got to be your number one source of news and information. John Epps, it is upper and lower state championship weekend in the landscape of high school football. We got a couple of local teams that are still active. Before we talk about some of the games coming up this weekend, how have the playoffs been in high school football this year? Because I've obviously been following along with you guys from afar, and we've had some bangers, man.
There have been some great games. I think most of the favorites are still here. Most, not all. Big shakeup at the 4A level. Some people around the Pickens County area like to call this time of year the Daniel Invitational. Well, that's over. South Point knocked out Daniel last week. That was not really a surprise, but normally you see Daniel in the Upper State Championship. Not this year. It's been some good football, some good performances. We saw a single game state record for rushing yards in the game last week from Mason Pickett Hicks at South Point. It's been some fun stuff going on.
All right, let's get into some of the big games from around the area and from around the state. We have had a couple of folks that have checked in this morning, John, asking when you were going to talk about Fairfield Central at Clinton High School. Give me a little breakdown on that one.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fun ball game. This is going to be over at Clinton High School. Both teams have had a great year. Fairfield Central, I feel like they've flown under the radar a little bit. Their schedule has been okay, but not great. But they are a really good team. They're led by Tidarius Greer, very good running back. Tidarian Greer, running back over there at Fairfield Central. They have done a really good job. Chauncey Turner on the defensive side has been really good for them. But this Clinton Red Devil team, they are a big-time problem. They are playing some good defense right now. And I said most of the favorites are still around. One of those favorites was Batesburg-Leesville. They've been number one in the 2A polls pretty much all year. That was a tied game, 14-14 at the half. The Red Devils came out second half, smoked them, win that game 31-14, really just dominated the final 24 minutes of that ball game. I think this will be a really good game. I think the Griffins have got what it takes to win this game. Unfortunately, being in Clinton, this is going to be a high-energy crowd. It's a Red Devil program that's been really good the last few years, been plagued by injuries. Injuries have held them back a little bit. They're healthy right now. It seems like a little bit of team of destiny for the Red Devils. I think Clinton's got a great chance to win this and go to the Weekend of Champions next week.
All right, let's move on to another one that's from the region. Gaffney is on the road at Northwestern.
Yeah, this is – you don't get two bigger names than Gaffney and Northwestern. This is going to be a great ball game as well. Gaffney, they had a streak earlier in the year where their offense was just downright putrid. They won some overtime games against some teams they probably shouldn't have been in that close of a game with. And then they played the region title a few weeks ago against Spartanburg, and boy, did they come alive. Won that game 27-24. Looked really good in that ball game. They've looked good in the playoffs. Jaden McDowell at running back is now finally healthy. They missed him. Javon Gilmore seems to have things figured out a little bit better at the quarterback position. He had a little bit of a slump, but he's back now. But Northwestern is a machine, and this is going to be over in Rock Hill as well. It's going to be a big crowd over there. Finley Polk, quarterback at Northwestern, he's played a lot of football for them. I don't know. I think Dutch Fork could beat Northwestern. Other than that, I don't know if there's anybody else in the state that can beat them. I think the Trojans are that good. Gavin's going to find a way to make this a really good ball game, and that's scary because in close ball games, they typically win. But I got to go with the Trojans here. I think they are just well-rounded on all phases of the football field.
Spartanburg, John, is up at Dutch Fork in a showdown.
Yeah, this is a rematch from back in August, week 1, if you will, second game for those programs. Dutch Fork won 24-7 up in Spartanburg. I think Spartanburg is a better team now than they were before. They've gotten the offense figured out a little bit. Defense has been there for Coach Hodge all year long. I think they'll be pretty competitive in this game, but the Dutch Fork defense, it's just – Kevin and I talked about this on our pregame show Tuesday. I just don't see how – and not just Spartanburg, and we saw Irma, one of the best offenses in the state, score 14 points. I don't see how a team scores 20 points against Dutch Fork. And unfortunately for Spartanburg, I think they're in the same boat. You know, I think they can have a great game and score 14, maybe 17 points. I just don't think it's enough. I think Dutch Fork wins a low-scoring, just rock fight. And I think Dutch Fork just has enough on offense. Ethan Offing at quarterback's playing well right now. I think they scored just enough to win this game. And that defense, this is a good game to go to if you hadn't seen Dutch Fork play, because this defense is a high level. It's down in Irmo. They've got some Division I talent over there. Josh Smith going to Carolina next year. Really good team. This defense is just too good.
South Point at West Side.
This is probably the game of the night, guys. West Side has been world beaters for now 2 years, defending state champs. You got Cutter Woods. He's also headed to Columbia next week or next year. Now, don't know what's going on with Schmary's Bowmore or Marnie Weaver. They were committed to Appalachian State until this week. I've got some theories in my head. I think, they may be staying in state. I've got nothing to go off on that. That's just an idea that I have in my head. But extremely good talent. Rob, you're certainly aware of how good those two guys are, Bowmore and Weaver. They've been doing it on offense, defense, special teams. But this South Point squad's different. They're not going to be intimidated by anybody. They went to Daniel last week, beat them 49-35. Mason Pickett hits 486 rushing yards. That was some incredible blocking by a good offensive line and by the wide receivers on the outside as well. Very impressive. This is going to be a shootout, I think. I think West Side's the better team. I'm going to say it's going to be an upset, though. I think South Point finds a way to win this game. I think West Side has not really slipped up all year. And I think we might see them hit a little adversity tonight. See if they can overcome it. I think they are the better team in this game. But I just feel like there's an upset on the horizon here tonight over in Anderson. It should be an awesome ball game. Incredible talent all over the field.
Also, let's point out the fact that Cutter Woods might be the best quarterback name we have heard in a hot minute.
He's great. You look at Lenore Sellers. He was awesome a couple years ago at Florence. See what he's doing now in Columbia. Cutter Woods is a really good talent as well. It's a good get by Carolina, I think. Cam McMillan on the South Point side, though, very good quarterback in his own right over there. He's a big kid. They've got another guy. I think he's committed to South Carolina too. Javian Occurrence plays on the defensive side of the ball. Big kid as well. They are a physical team, and it's two teams that are very similar, very talented, and they carry some swagger. It was fun seeing those South Point guys get after it against Daniel last week. It's going to be I expect maybe a little bit of a chippy game. It's going to be some good emotions in that one.
By the way, you are probably uniquely positioned to answer this question. John Epps from the Moving the Chains podcast. They join us every Friday at this time to talk high school football. You guys obviously follow recruiting, but do so more from the high school standpoint, seeing where these guys are being recruited by and going to. We were talking a little bit early signing day yesterday. Clemson, depending on what ranking you looked at, checking anywhere from 26 to 33. In fact, a couple of metrics had them behind Florida State's early signing class. And obviously, we're a long way from February, National Signing Day, when the class gets finalized, and you'll have some guys not that signed already, but some guys that are expected to go one place will flip over, et cetera. But I think it's interesting that over the past couple of weeks, compared to the last handful of years, the number of guys that you bring up going out, good talent, and looked at by Carolina, going to Carolina, committed to, visiting Carolina, et cetera, versus, and you're a Clemson guy, to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit here, I'm hearing a lot more of these high-level talent guys being mentioned alongside the Carolina name than the Clemson name. Is that just recency bias because the Gamecocks are having a hell of a season right now? Or is it, in your opinion, as somebody who's following high school football around the state, is that tangible to you too?
I think it's very tangible. I think it's something that can be said for the past few years. South Carolina, and there's opinions right on both sides. South Carolina, I think, has recruited in state a little better than Clemson. They've landed on some guys recently, whereas Clemson may not have pursued as hard. I think Lenore Sellers is one of those names. And what that reasoning is, I don't know. I know, Clemson gets a lot of guys out of Georgia. They're right there on the doorstep. But it is interesting to see a lot of the talent that, especially here this year, there's some good talent. There's 2 wide receivers as well going to Carolina this year. Jaden Sellers, Jordan Gidron out of Ridgeview High School. They're going to Carolina. Jaden Sellers is the younger brother of Lenore's, so that makes sense. And Cutter Woods is a great quarterback. He's a 3-star guy coming out. Clemson got a 3-star guy out of the Tampa area, I think 2 weeks ago. So why you pick a 3-star guy out of Florida instead of a 3-star guy. For us, it's like, man, you take the home state guy, take the guy that we know and we've seen play. But, they've got a method to it. And as a Clemson guy, I sometimes question Dabo, but I can't do it. The guy knows what he's doing. There's a method to what he's doing. I trust him, but as a Clemson fan and doing the high school football, it's hard to watch Carolina sometimes because I'll admit it. I pull against Carolina every week. I pull against Carolina.
Rivalry, baby.
Win. I want to see him go 0-12. But I see guys like Sellers. I see guys like Nick Emanwari. Was it Irma? Like, I want to see those guys do well because I saw them play in high school. So it's tough. I like to see more of those guys at Clemson.
I respect that. John Epps from the Moving the Chains podcast. You can find them online at their website, movingchains.com. No G in that. Same handle on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And their podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. They'll be taking you all the way through the state championship game, and you'll get some recruiting news and notes from them. My man, good to see you, big dog. Where are you headed tonight, by the way?
I'm actually going to go to Simpsonville tonight, Hillcrest High School. We'll see Belton Honeypath play Mountain View. Now, for Clemson, Marquez Henderson at BHP commit there, going up against Jalen McGill. I know he was favoring Tennessee, so that's going to be 2 high-level running backs going at it. They both should be getting 30-plus carries. Should be another high-scoring affair. I'm really looking forward to it.
John Epps from the Moving the Chains pod, my man. Great to talk to you. We'll do state championship next week, fella.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Always, John Epps from the Moving the Chains pod. They join us on Fridays at 9 o'clock to talk high school ball. When we come back, we elevate a level to the college game, and we do so with Chapel Fowler, who's going to talk to us a little bit about his perspective on the ACC championship. We'll get his thoughts on the early signing period for Clemson and more. That's next on the right. We are back. What is up, young man?
Good morning. How are y'all? I'm good.
Good, buddy. How the hell are you?
I'm good. I got my coffee. I'm ready to go. I'm going up here to Charlotte in about 2 hours or so. Get up there for pressers and everything. And it's almost ACC title time. So
dig it, brother. Dig it. I got a show tomorrow, 12 to 3 here, and then I'm gonna head up afterwards. So you gonna be up in the press box tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Coming to find you, big dog. We're having halftime lunch together.
Man, yeah, it's a good spot too. That's a nice press box. I don't know how.
I have not been in the press box at BOA yet.
It's pretty high level, cushy chairs. So if that's your thing,
do I have to say nice things about David Tepper now?
I don't know about that.
He didn't make it. They were nice before he bought it. I'm just saying.
Enough.
Yeah, they were. I am curious about if the food is different during something like this than it is during an NFL game up in the press box.
I don't know who will be in charge of it, if it will be the conference or if it would be the stadium getting paid by the conference.
Yeah, I feel like it's mostly the same. They'll probably just contract out the same. I think Aramark does all the Clemson stuff. I don't know who does Panther stuff, but it was good in 2022. I remember that. They had the whole NFL spread working with mac and cheese and brisket and all this stuff. So I'm definitely going to show up hungry. I'll tell you that.
Oh, that's the right play. Yeah. That's the right play. This is one of those times that you jump into and say, we don't do this for the money. We do it for the perks of the job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is and the ACC does a really good job with all that too.
I would say this: there has not been an ACC Media Days until this year that I was kind of like down. I was down on the food this year at ACC Media Days a little bit. I was down on the food a little bit.
I forgot what it was.
All right, big dog, here we go.
All right.
Tomorrow evening in Charlotte, North Carolina at Bank of America Stadium, there's a little football game going down as the Clemson Tigers and the Southern Methodist University Mustangs, Los Tigres and the Ponies square off. You're really jacking up my promo here, Big E. All right?
No.
Get set to determine who will wear the crown of Atlantic Coast Conference champions for 2024. And more importantly than that, will guarantee themselves a place in the college football playoffs because, and we've talked about this a little bit before, SMU could theoretically lose and still get in, but there is no guarantee, meaning two teams fighting for their postseason lives tomorrow up in Charlotte, North Carolina. I will be there in person to cover that game, as will our next guest who covers Clemson athletics for the state. My dude, I got the pleasure to finally shake a hand in person at ACC Media Days this year. And I know that you've heard this young man's voice across pretty much every show that we've ever had on this station, but making his Rob Brown Show debut bright and early in the AM. I don't think we got him out of bed too early. It is 9:20, Chapel Fowler. I needed you to be up and with it a little bit by now. But I'm glad you're here, brother. Thanks for making your debut today, man.
Yeah, happy to be on with you guys. Like you said, I've been on a few times, a few shows, but not this one. So excited to see how it goes. It'll determine if I'll come back or not. I'm kidding.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, the vibes on this show, dramatically different from probably anything you've ever done before. You have heard me screaming at ACC Media Days in the past. Welcome to the career.
You know, and unlike that other show, we don't have to use booster chairs to get up really high. So you can see. I'm talking to you, Cole. Talking to you.
No holds barred. No holds barred. Chapel Fowler joining us here on the show. I want to get into the ACC championship game here in just a minute, but let me start with asking you about yesterday, early signing day. Kind of interesting. We've had a couple of callers that have reacted so far because the early signing class, this is not February. This isn't National Signing Day. We got a lot of work between here and that Valentine's Day-ish date, Chapel, but checking in, depending on what publication you look at, anywhere from 26th to 33rd nationally. The blue chip ratio, not great with no 4 or 5 stars signing on yesterday. So in terms of both yesterday's signing class and knowing that we've got till mid-February before the class is finalized, give me your overall thoughts on where Clemson's at in the recruiting process right now.
Yeah, I'd say fans have probably gotten used to, I think the quote Dabo likes to use is, the hay is in the barn. They've got, excuse me, anywhere from their 17 to 18 to 22 guys. And often they're signing those in December, and then February signing day is just kind of, it doesn't matter. They don't even do that big signing day show they used to do, because that second period is such an afterthought to so many people. But I think you look at the smaller class, obviously 7 decommitments is part of that. Dabo talks about this being a small class, but I mean, they certainly were planning on taking more, but before, 6 guys since late August alone flipped to other Power 5 schools. So I think you're seeing a little bit of Clemson's stance in terms of NIL stuff, maybe finally bearing out. It really wasn't an issue. They're able to get a lot of really good guys in the last 3 classes kind of in this quote unquote NIL era. I mean, even last year you go, start 4-4, finish 8-4, and you're still signing Sammy Brown, Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, Ashton Hampton, who's probably going to start on Saturday or be part of that rotation. A lot of really good, talented, solid dudes. Same for the last 2 classes before that. But I mean, yeah, it was interesting to see that number. Clemson is routinely touted how they've had a top 15 class in one of the 3 major recruiting sites that kind of track that from a team basis for something like, 15 straight years now. That little nugget was missing from the kind of stuff they sent out promoting the class on Wednesday. And for obvious reasons, like this is the class, I think it's 26 in the 247 composite, which is the one that I usually use that our paper uses to kind of value stuff. Top heavy, there's a few guys in there that I'm sure fans are excited about and should be, between, Amari Adams, South Carolina guy who was trying to get, Florida State, USC, all these schools are trying to flip him, and it didn't happen. And Braden Jacobs, the son of the NFL running back, and a few other guys. But it's not your usual Clemson class by any means. And I think that's really noticeable.
Is this because we at the beginning of the year, Chapel, we asked Clemson fans to define success for the 2024 season so that at the end of the year we could kind of have a referendum, and you can make that referendum about just the season. You can make the referendum about, is the Dabo way still going to work in college football in 2024, whatever you wanted to make the referendum on. And there have been a number of folks today that have called and texted the show and said that they feel like there's a slowdown happening, and they kind of place it there. Is this, do you think, the result of Dabo, I'm not saying not using, but maybe not being as willing to go full throttle portal NIL as other coaches, Shane Beamer, for instance, being one of them, are? Do you think this is a result of a season that, listen, a lot of schools would love to be 9-3 and playing for a Power 5 conference championship game, but it is a disappointing year for what Clemson fans have accepted as the standard of the last few years? Is that the result? Is it a result of that? Is it a result of something we're not seeing? Is it a result of South Carolina accelerating their program? Is it a result of Dabo not buying into the portal and NIL? Or is it just, hey, it's cyclical college football, welcome to real life?
Yeah, it's interesting like how that kind of thought has changed, after the Georgia season opener. We're way on one end of the spectrum. Like this is a program that's in a lot of trouble, and this portal stance has really hurt them. And then there's kind of like a reclamation or a understanding that, hey, maybe developing high school talent, that pays off. They go on that big winning streak. They're scoring all these points per game at the same time. Like Florida State, who was the portal darling last year, starts 1-9 or whatever they finished, 2-10. So those kind of two things contrasted, I think, maybe built up some momentum in Clemson's direction, just in terms of like, hey, if everybody or almost everybody is heavy on portal now. You kind of see this in college basketball too, like teams that kind of zig where others zag can find some success. So I think you've seen that a little bit, but then down the stretch, to lose to Louisville, to South Carolina, they're in a spot right now where like this, there's so many referendums in any given season, so they kind of take it with a grain of salt. But like Saturday does a lot like in favor or against, the quote unquote Clemson way right now. We know that's going to change next year a little bit with the revenue sharing coming in. Dabo's been very public about, the percentage of that $20.5 million that's going to go to football players. I think the standard is like 75%. Me and others, have heard that Clemson's commitment to football in terms of percentage of that $20.5 million is going to be pretty well above that, probably one of the highest nationally. So that will help. But NIL is still a thing. There's still portal guys making plays against you. I mean, South Carolina basically won against Clemson 2 years in a row in Clemson with portal guys making the plays. Rattler throws the Juice Wells for a first down in 2022, and then Demetrius Knight picks off Klubnik on Saturday. So, those players can make plays too. So, yeah, this one's I think Saturday is a lot in favor or against it. It's kind of be like the third big swing we've seen on this point this year. But it's important, how you construct your roster is everything. So this Saturday night alone, I think is going to kind of stamp this season as a success or a failure probably in most fans' minds. And I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, no, I agree. In fact, the answer when we did this composite at the beginning of the year, the answer that we got when I kind of brought them all together and averaged them out was effectively win the conference, make the playoff, and win at least a game. Now, winning the conference, if Clemson sneaks in and grabs that 4 seed, which I know there's got to be a ton of chaos for it to happen, that counts as far as I'm concerned. Getting a bye would count as a win in the first round. If they don't, likely going in as the 12 seed, likely going on the road to South Bend, Indiana to play the Notre Dame Irish. We'll hang on because we may be getting to that down the road. So let's focus in on tomorrow. There is one thing about this game that I find very interesting, and I'll give you my thought on it. Tell me if I'm off base or not here. Kevin Jennings, a quarterback for SMU, who has replaced Preston Stone outright and did so about week 5-6 of the season. I've been calling him all day. He's a skinny Lenore Sellers, right? Like he's got the ability to run. He's used the legs. He only goes $184 versus Sellers, who goes 242 and runs like Jerome frickin' Bettis for no reason. Yes. Jennings is faster. He's more slippery. He's also a guy that's not going to get a ton of yak yards. The good news is, you saw kind of the offense that SU's going to run because it's somewhat similar to what South Carolina threw at you. The bad news is Sellers busted you up for $166. So what does Clemson do to adapt and be ready for Kevin Jennings tomorrow night?
Yeah, it's a weird spot because, I don't think you look at their defensive game plan against South Carolina and you're not disgusted. You don't think they, totally missed the ball on how they defended him. The number of times they had him in the backfield, they had gotten the pressure they wanted and just did not tackle him. Scheme is one thing, but at some point it comes down to finishing tackles in Clemson. I think Sellers was credited with forcing 18 missed tackles by himself, according to Pro Football Focus. And in the press box, it felt like more. It felt like 5 on every single snap. So yeah, it's interesting because I did think I was interested to see how the matchup looked, Clemson defense versus South Carolina offense, because obviously, that group has struggled against the run significantly in a lot of big spots this year. And really, the degree to which they were swarming him, I thought it surprised me. I didn't think they would be able to get that much pressure on him. And to have him so dead to rights up until the moment he slips away, which makes it all worthless, right? So I think, I don't know. I'm really surprised Sammy Brown sat most of the fourth quarter. I think that was a really questionable decision. Certainly one that, I'm not the coach, but I don't agree with that. I think in the first, second quarters, the way he was kind of hawking down guys, he was really one of the only second level people who were staying with Sellers and had that level of physicality and speed combo to actually bring him down, where he was just pushing his way through arm tackles with everybody else. So, I think some 3 linebacker sets, they've served the team well this year when they've used them, which has been infrequently, which has, again, been a frustration of people for valid reasons. But, yeah, I'm just imagining, SMU was watching that film and being like, oh, yeah, we got there's going to be some opportunities here for this guy. And, yeah, heck of a quarterback, Kevin Jennings. I'm excited to see him play on Saturday, in person for the first time. The stats are impressive, the deep ball, the yards per attempt, everything. And I love a running quarterback, so I'm excited to see that go down. And I'd imagine that's a spot where SMU feels really good, and totally warranted.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's flip it over. Talk about the offensive side of the football for this Clemson Tiger football team taking on SMU. Listen, Cade Klubnik last week was the reason this was a game. Cade Klubnik and his legs, the reason that this was a game. You kind of knew what you were getting. I think South Carolina has the best defensive end tandem maybe in all of college football this year. SMU doesn't really have the same dogs, certainly across the front 7 that South Carolina does. So do we think that the Riley offense is a little bit more balanced? Are we going to see a little bit more Cade Klubnik standing in the pocket? Or after last week, do you think Dabo gets his way? Maybe you drop a little bit more design runs. How does this offense make sure that you're wearing an ACC crown tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think that the inefficiency of Phil Maffa down the stretch has been such a huge like struggle point for them. And one of the reasons they've kind of had these poor offensive outputs, like you look at their last 3-4 games against power conference teams, take out the Citadel, like Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh, South Carolina. I mean, what it was like 21 points, 24 points, 14 points in against Pittsburgh again. They have something like, I don't know, 15 total yards of offense before that final game-winning drive featuring the Klubnik run. I think the ESPN broadcast was reporting that Moffitt had a shoulder injury that he was dealing with during that South Carolina game. I think it's very fair to say he's not 100% healthy at this point. Again, nobody is what the coach answer would be. But that is not the same explosive dude that I saw ripping off 60, 70-yard runs at other points during this season. He played like 170-something snaps in a 2-game period. And since then is just really, 20 carries, 66 yards against South Carolina. That's not the all ACC running back that he was kind of projecting as earlier this year. So I think if they're going to want that ACC championship, it's another Cade game. Like Cade might end up with 85% of their total offensive yards or something like that, which he's done at points this year. That kid just gets up every single time. I don't think he's I think he's missed like one snap of offense this year outside of like going to the bench because they were up 20 points or whatever. He always gets back up, remarkably tough, more so than I thought he would be. You see the frame, especially as a freshman, like even last year, he just kept popping back up after every sack. So yeah, I think it's air it out and let him do his thing on the ground. And if I were Clemson, I'd feel more confident about that than the run game right now. And again, one game, see what the matchup is and just scheme the heck out of that. Cade was really, like you said, the reason they were even close in that game against South Carolina. And I really think, you take the interception with a grain of salt when you consider all the other stuff. The way he got them to that point in the first place, I don't think it was a horrible game for him by any means. He was really good on Saturday, and he can be again. But his legs have been huge this year, and I think they will be again on Saturday. He probably needs something like 30, 40, 50 yards to get them in the point where they're winning the game.
Chapel Fowler covers the Clemson Tigers for the state. He will be up in Charlotte, North Carolina tomorrow night as Clemson takes on SMU with the ACC crown hanging in the balance. My man, it is great to have you on for the first time. I appreciate it. I would love to do it more often. And more importantly, what are we doing for the menu tomorrow night? Do we have it? Did you get a chicken or steak invite yet?
Yeah, I'm TBD on what's going to be in the press box. I'm going to show up hungry, but I don't know. I'm always I've stopped doing sugary coffee soda stuff, so I'm just a water and black coffee guy. So I don't really care much about the drink menu up there. But I'm ready for something because it's going to be a late night, as you know from covering these things. If I go to bed at 4, I think that's a win. So I'm gonna have to get fueled up. So we'll see what Charlotte and the ACC have to offer.
I respect it. Chapel Fowler making his Rob Brown Show debut, and we are damn glad to have him. Let's do it again, big fella. Appreciate you.
All right, sure thing. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
You got it. Chapel Fowler. You can follow him on X, and you probably should if you're a Clemson fan at Chapel Fowler, CHAPELFOWLER. We are back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, I'm going to hit the head before the last segment. You can leave us up if you're not going anywhere.
Thank you for permission or instruction.
I was just saying I'm leaving.
Or what? Okay.
Do whatever you want.
Well, why don't you leave then?
Do whatever you want.
Just go.
I don't care. Do
whatever. Short break. Hurry.
Experience all this and more on America's largest 5G
Going to be a fun game. I predict it will come down to whoever has the ball last, because that's just about every single game for the Chiefs. It's helped me to have calmer nerves, though, because, I mean, once you endure that for like a couple seasons, you get a little more, less jumpy about things.
All right, real quick, because people took time out of their day to drop us a voice note on the Ray Memorial Hotline. I got two that I want to real quickly respond to, and then we will take a look up and down the NFL's schedule for the weekend and get you set up for that. Let's start with, let's go with Ty. Ty went on the Ray Memorial Hotline yesterday and said this. I did the thing again, Lonzo. I did the thing again. See?
I almost think that should count as.
No, of course.
All right.
Because you only got one more segment to tie the game. All right.
Well,
Which you won't now because we're talking about it.
Right.
But you never know. All right.
I'm going to win the week.
You're up 28-3 is all I'm saying. All right.
What's up, guys? Hope you're having a good day today. Just wanted to get y'all's take on the SEC going 14-2 in the SEC ACC Challenge. Do you feel like the SEC is beginning to overtake college football? For a while, the ACC was considered the powerhouse in college basketball, but after this weekend, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Just kind of wanted to get your take on that. Do you really feel like SEC is the better conference in basketball, or do you feel like it was just kind of a fluke this weekend? Just want to get your take on that. Hope you guys have a good one.
Thank you very much, Ty. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for checking in. Here's the answer.
It just means more.
Sure, why not? Yeah, that's the answer. Here's the answer. The answer is that the SEC and the Big Ten have a hell of a lot more money. I mean, honestly, I'm sorry. That's what it is. They have more money now. They are getting more money. They will continue to get more money. And when they get more money, everybody benefits. And considering you get more money for succeeding in basketball, too, it is a worthwhile investment for the athletic departments to invest into basketball. Now, there are other elements of this as well. At Alabama, who knocked off North Carolina. Alabama went and hired Nate Oates. Nate Oates has been a miracle worker in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. That is a school that I can tell you, for having covered them for a very long time, did not give a rat's or hinda apart about basketball until Nate Oates showed up and made them care about basketball. And now they fill up their basketball arena constantly, and they got a damn good basketball team. Auburn might be the best team in the country. Now, they did go on the road and lose to Duke. They were one of the two games that the ACC won in a challenge they used to dominate like the SEC did this year. Bruce Pearl shows up. They put a bunch of money into Auburn. Would you look at that? Auburn's got one of the, I'll say no worse than top 3 teams in the country. And then you look at some of the other places, Arkansas, Missouri, Florida is on its way back up. Their recruiting's incredible on the basketball court right now. The reality is, college sports is a business, my dudes. It's just a business. And they gave the opportunity, by profiting in football with conference realignment and all that, to put more money into the kitty that can be spread out more. Basketball is the next biggest revenue generator, so they have invested in that. And just like that, this is part of the reason why teams like Clemson and Florida State wanted out of the ACC. So they can go to the SEC and they can play in that conference, or they can go to the Big Ten and play in that conference, which also has developing basketball schools, and succeed there as well and make more March Madness money as well. It's guys, it's all feathers on the same bird. At the end of the day, the goal in everything is to make more money. Bully Rye sent us a message.
Wait, all feathers on the same bird? I don't think I've ever heard that.
Well,
before.
the expression is usually two wings, but they're on the same bird or something like that. I'm talking about all these different decisions.
You just made that up?
Yeah, I did for sure.
Okay.
I absolutely did.
All right,
I'm talking about
right.
all these. We have all these things. Why this? Why that? Why this? Why that? And the answer is always
No. I got
money.
it. I thought it was
Yeah.
a good description. I just never heard it before.
I'm dumb and hadn't thought of something yet, so that's what I came up with on the fly.
Well, maybe 20 years from now, people will be saying that, and you just coined it.
I'm an influencer and innovator, people. I am an architect. I am a revolutionary. I am Rob freaking Brown.
Yeah, now you need to dye your tips of your hair. So,
Bully Rye.
Rob Brown, it's your guy, Bully Rye, the Tap Outs and Touchdowns podcast.
Listen to the self-promotion.
You mentioned last year that you told everybody that leaving Florida State out is setting a precedent to shaft other teams in the future. Here's the problem. They set the precedent that they're going to put the best teams in the playoff. But this year, they've shown their hypocrisy in not doing so. So that's the issue that I have with the College Football Playoff Committee, is that they're not going to be straight up with you. They're going to spin their own narrative to get the teams that they want to get in the playoff, so that you have to have a nearly perfect season to get in. And even then is not guaranteed, because they want to make sure teams like Ohio State and Alabama, et cetera, are not only going to make the playoff, but are going to have marquee matchups against other big names in college football. And it doesn't matter who they play, when they play, or whatever.
Bully Ride checking in. Appreciate that. On the Ray Memorial Hotline, you can leave your thoughts as well to get them played on the air by going to the Odyssey app, AUDACY, going to the Fan Upstate page, clicking the circle button with a microphone in it, and leaving your 30 to 60-second voice message. Now,
why do you throw Ohio State in there? I mean, I get the Alabama.
You're absolutely
analogy,
a beneficiary of this. You're a brand, dude.
But I know, I'm just curious.
You're a brand.
Because well, yeah, it's a brand, but I'm talking about this season in particular. They lost 2 games. I mean, by a total of 4 points.
Sure. Listen, the reality here is, and you pointed this out yesterday in a different conversation, but I think the point flies as well here. Sometimes these brands are in because they're damn good football teams. Georgia's beating everybody from like 7 down, with maybe an exception of a good game here and there, right? Like I believe that. Some of these brands are in because they actually have a really good football team. Nobody's questioning if the Oregon Ducks deserve a spot. I'm not questioning if the Ohio State Buckeyes deserve a spot. They do.
They were ranked, in the top 3 almost the entire season. So I'm just saying.
So here is what I think. This will never
happen. And if
happen.
they don't go to the playoff, I'm not going to get mad because they should have beat Michigan.
I would.
Still.
I would. They deserve a spot. Here's the biggest takeaway I would have from all this. It's twofold. Number one, yeah, Bully Rye, they have said the whole time, oh, it's the 4 best teams. Now 12 best teams. That's not the problem. I'm fine with that concept. The problem is they have never once expounded on how they determine who those teams are. They have never once sat down and said, here are the metrics and the importance of those metrics that we are looking for. This is why I've said, Bully Rye, from the beginning. And I say now, and I continue to hearken on it, and I picked it up in the last couple of weeks. You want to know what the best thing you can do for college football is? Number one, put a camera and a microphone in that room. Let us see it and hear the conversations, so that 2 things. Number one, we as fans know what the hell is going on. And number 2, schools can adapt. They can start massaging things to make sure they are meeting the metrics the committee wants and not worrying as much about the ones that are less important. And the second thing that you do in this spot is you expand the committee so that there are more voices, putting more reasons to have more opinions in the table. And let's do a vote. Do it the way the AP poll has done it forever. Have 60 people in there. Have 160 people. Have 1,000 people that submit a vote. And then let's tabulate them all so that every one of those metrics has a different amount of people weighing them all differently. And then we might have a shot at it.
And now the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
You know what? I got it right today. I went jitterbug on my hotkeys over here. I mean, it is. Look, you can see it from there. Do you see it?
Dude.
I told you.
You did go jitterbug.
Yeah, I moved them and I went jitterbug. I ain't making that mistake again. All right. The first thing that's Xing is Audrey Plaza.
Okay. This is incredible. Audrey Plaza is trending because they just, I guess, arrested a young lady, and I use this term very loosely, a young lady down in Colombia who murdered at least an ex-husband, and they believe maybe some more down the line.
They're saying multiple murders.
Multiple murders
Yeah.
that they connected to this woman. And she is the spitting image of Aubrey Plaza.
By the way, her nickname is the Doll.
Yeah. And for the record, this is one of those things that is very weird to say because this is how Rob Brown keeps ending up, with the exception of my wife. This is why I've been attracted to crazy women my whole life. I look at her and I go, she's adorable. And I'm kind of into that, I'm kind of into that. She is adorable. I get the name. But when they walked her in.
She is adorable.
She's adorable.
I completely agree with you.
I would have got is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Younger, dumber Rob Brown as opposed to older, dumber Rob Brown. Younger, dumber Rob Brown, I'd have got. That's just a fact. I'd have got murdered. All right.
Older Rob Brown probably would have got.
Still would have got.
Yeah,
all right. Still would have got. They showed the video of her perp walk and then her mugshot, and she's doing the like classic movie haunted witch look where she's like her head's down, but the eyes are staring up, and they are evil eyes. And she's got the like messy hair kind of draped over her face. And I looked and I'm like, I get why murdered bros got it. I get it. I understand it. I get why those bros got. I do.
And the people who are saying Aubrey Plaza playing her in a movie would be perfect. Cast.
Looks just like her.
They're right.
And for the record, big Aubrey Plaza guy.
All right. So am I. The next thing that's Xing is Bevo.
Bevo is Xing because the University of Texas requested permission from the Southeastern Conference to bring their live mascot, Bevo the Giant Walking Steak, to Atlanta for the SEC championship game. And the SEC said no, which makes sense because, down in Texas, it's their own stadium. They can do what they want. But by and large, they've got the protocols all set and whatever. The handful of times they've brought Bevo on the road, there's almost always someone almost died. Bevo almost murdered Uga a few years ago. Bevo broke out of his corral the last time they brought him to an NFL stadium and almost took out a lady who was trying to get a selfie, almost got gored to the face by Bevo. Bevo's a problem outside of Austin, Texas. So the SEC said, no, you can't bring the 2-ton murder machine with spiky horns on the front to Atlanta, Georgia. Sorry, Texas. And the Texas fans are real mad about it. I'm sorry. If Bevo decides he's done being in the little bullpen over there, Bevo's taking it. There's only one way to stop Bevo, Lonzo. If he goes on a murderous rampage, which he has come close multiple times, there's only one way to stop him, which is to murder him on live color television. That's it. That's the only way you're stopping a 3-ton murder machine.
Or, it's running of the Bulls on national TV.
Yeah.
Which could be fun if you're not the person running.
If you're into the weird stuff, there are plenty of videos out there at the running of the Bulls of people getting gored. It's not pretty, dudes.
All right. The next thing that's Xing is Jesse the Body Ventura.
I don't know why he's Xing.
This just broke. So
gotcha. I don't know why he's Xing. Here's what I'm going to say. We played the audio earlier of good old JR, Jim Ross, doing the intro to last night's Thursday Night Football game. Jesse the Body Ventura is a weird bird. He's a weird dude. But damn it, that guy can't get you excited about stuff.
Speaking of which, he's going to be a part of the announced team for Saturday night's main event.
Really?
Yes. Bringing him back for that. I loved him on color. I really did because he's just got that unique voice. He really does.
He's one of those guys that, like, away from wrestling, I wouldn't have anything to do with him. In wrestling, though, he's an all-time great, and there's no question mark about that.
And a snappy dresser.
Snappy dresser. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on social media, Twitter, whatever. I will be live at ACC Championship game tomorrow night in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'll be on the Fan Upstate page as well as my own page at The Rob Brown Show. If you're a Clemson fan, make sure you're following me there. I'll give you game diagnoses and breakdowns live from Bank of America Stadium. Y'all have a great weekend. Do not drink and drive. I will punch you directly in the face, and we will see you back here on Monday on The Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later! Go Horn!
Victorious this week.
Yes, you are. 2-1.
Victorious. There was a moment where I thought about turning my mic off, and I said, screw it. I'm just leaving it on for the next 20 minutes.
All right, let's see what we got up in here. Mad About Everything was on a run there. Said, y'all are so cute when you argue. We know we're cute. First off, we're cute all the time. SMU 3017. Yeah, I also noticed Chapel Fowler's fan. Did you see it after that comment?
Yeah, it was. I didn't
long.
notice before until he said it. And then I looked up. I was like, wow, that is weird.
Yeah, that thing's got to go 1,000 miles.
I was going to say
hour.
it might be one of those things that goes so fast you can't see it when it's moving.
I almost imagine like that's the point, right? Like you turn that thing on and all you see is the light because it just rips in circles. I don't know. We'll see. Yep. See all that? It's exactly what I was saying. That is exactly correct. ACC versus SEC, South Carolina. Yeah, I think the one I saw South Carolina most likely projected to was the Citrus Bowl. Which I think would be a good bowl to end up in. I mean, granted, for whatever bowl games are worth anymore, we've talked about it. Bowl games are worth two things: 17 extra practices and a paycheck. That's what they're for. Nobody cares about them anymore, right? Like you'll watch them because it's the last time you'll see your football team play for 270 days or whatever it is. But nobody cares about them outside of the extra practices and a paycheck that goes back into the program. So we'll see. Use the AI gorilla voice for commentary. Oh, what are they hiding from us? I don't know why I turned Jesse the Body Ventura into Chris Nolan Batman there for a second.
Or Vince McMahon. It was somewhere in there.
Oh, man. This is the other thing. You're not even really watching your team play anymore, right? You're watching your next year's team play. You're watching 2 years' team play. You're watching the young guys play, which is fine. I mean, again, who cares? Has anybody ever hung a Peach Bowl champions banner, or at least in the last few years? Has anybody hung a Peach Bowl, a Citrus Bowl, a Cheez-Its Bowl champions banner? No. You send the players for the swag, for the merch, for the extra practices.
Do they even care about the merch anymore with NIL, though?
They do because they put some dope merch in those bags now. Like hundreds of dollars worth of free merch. I mean, the biggest names probably don't care anymore, but the third string left tackle cares.
Good point.
All right, we're out of here, dudes. Y'all have a great weekend. Again, if you're going to be in Charlotte, shoot me a tweet or something. I'll be walking the stadium for a while before the game starts, and I head up to the press box, and then I will honestly, depending on what time we get out of there, because the game starts at 8, means it should be over about 11:30. I may go out downtown Charlotte before I come home. We'll see. But anyway, y'all have a great weekend. And we'll see you back here Monday. Thanks for being here. You're all spectacular people. Farewell. Goodbye. Auf Wiedersehen. Good night.